Hello. Hey, gang. Yeah, bonus stream. Solid Marcus, welcome. Welcome to the show. How you doing? How's it going? I hope you're doing good. I hope everything's going well with you. Yeah, it's a bit of a surprise Saturday stream. I, I didn't go live yesterday because my mouth was sore still, from some stuff they were doing. But, I did want to talk about some things. Luckily, and I wasn't gonna go live, but I made what I considered an anodyne post. Pretty simple, pretty just one of those kind of like Christmas, Thanksgiving-ish greetings type of things. We'll get to it in a second, right? Um Oh boy, people are very angry. Made it to the max. Welcome. Hello. How's everyone doing today? How is everyone going? Um I guess I should also take this opportunity to let you know that my tooth got done. I don't know if you guys noticed. Hooray, right? We got it fixed. Did you guys ever doubt? Were you guys did you ever lose faith? Well, you shouldn't have. Never doubt a wick. Okay, never doubt a wick. But no, this one's a temp. I get the real crown on like the 6th or whatever. This has just kind of tied me over, but yeah, I'm a smiler. I don't know, guy. I know it's been a while, right? But I'm generally a smiler, so I haven't been as smiley as I usually am because of the tooth thing, but nah, it got fixed. So hooray! I will say I'm still kind of nervous about it, right? Like I have this like imagine like in my imagination, I go to bite down on something and it snaps off again. I know it's probably not going to happen, right? But that paranoia is in my head right now, so I'm being very gentle with it, right? I'll eventually get over it, but that's what I got so far. Is it's I keep biting into something. I'm like, oh no, is this gonna break it again, right? But yeah, man. I hope everyone's having a good Saturday. How are you guys? Zoo, nice to see you. Solemn Argus, Manny to the Max. Grand Platinum says I did. Well, yes, I'm glad that you are a doubter and a hater, because I get to say, haha, I told you so. Jenny Burns, thank you for the sub. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the show. Yeah, it's a Saturday. Woo, we got a lot to talk about. We got a lot to discuss. We got a great shows coming up next week. That'll be fun. I'm going to go on Admiral Gibbs' podcast to talk about tariffs. That'll be great. We're going to have Tracing Woodgrains on Monday to discuss centrism and things like that, and the political climate. But I wanted to speak with you guys about something today, because like I said, I made a tweet. I'll wait a few minutes for more people to kind of roll in, and then we'll get to it. But you know what? No, I'll just bring it up now. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this up. So I saw a pretty good video, and we might watch some of it. It's like 8 minutes long, but it's a pretty good video. Has anyone told you that you look like Alex Kirsch's little brother yet? No one's told me that. I don't. Is that a good thing? A bad thing? What? I don't know. But let's watch. Let's take a look. See. Okay. So I saw, like I said, pretty good video. We might watch some of it. But here we go. I don't know if you can read it here. Let me get a little zoomer inner here. But Bill Maher did like one of his new rule segments or whatever. I like Bill Maher. Now a lot of people don't. He's kind of a bit of arrogant prick sometimes, but it's fun to watch on occasion. He made here. Let me get these messages out. He made a post that like I just agree with 100%. Right. It's a new rule segment. Basically, you can read it. The title, please do not let politics fuck up the holidays. Family isn't like gender. You can't fix it by cutting off members. And basically, and again, we might go over some of it, right? But basically, it's a like, hey, don't be a dick. Don't cut off your family just because they voted for the other political side. And he talks to Republicans about this. He talks to Democrats about this. And he's like, stop trying to divide us like this. At the end of the day, we're all American. We're all human. And, you know, it's the holidays, right? I don't know. Pretty standard stuff, right? Jenny Burns says, I don't know, banning my drunk aunt and uncle from Christmas made family Christmas gatherings a million times better. Look, I'm not saying that if they're like destroying things that you can't ever kick a family member out. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what Bill Maher's saying, right? You know what? Let's watch a little bit of it and maybe we'll get a better feel. A better feel for these things, okay? But before we do, just to give you guys a little preview, I made a post to agree with it. I do this sometimes. I just agree with things, right? Post was, yeah, watch the video. This 100%. I've lived in red areas for most of my life. People knew I was a Democrat. My Republican neighbors helped me bury Sparky, my dog, from a few years ago. When he passed, and when my neighbors with a Trump sign had car issues, I've helped them jump their car and other things, right? It's just be human, okay? Simple statement. Simple statement, right? Everyone could agree with this, right? Everyone thinks about this. This is kind of a true thing, right? That's what I thought. But then let's read some of the replies, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what some of these wonderful repliers have to say. Things like, this is easy to say when politics don't affect you much. One, I don't know why they think the politics don't affect me much. Two, it's easy to say even when politics do affect you, right? And there's more, but I want to stick on this one. Allowing politics to affect you so much that you're willing to cut off family members is a skill issue. It's a you problem, right? Like, I understand that if you're a minority or you have, if you're trans or other things, politics might have in some ways a different relationship to you than it may have to me, right? But why expound it? Why make it worse when you allow it to basically cut off family and friends and treat, like, if a person with a Trump sign is in their yard, right? Why would we treat them any different? If they haven't treated us poorly, why would we treat them poorly just because we know their political views? Hey, Lumi, nice to see you. Awesome is Coyote says, what if we are not human? Well, then, I mean, like, look. Okay, I'm a humanity first kind of guy. Let's see what some of the other things are saying. Here's one. Sorry, but conservatives have always used family gatherings to ensure conservative values are shared and expressed within the family. It doesn't feel political to them. Questioning someone's transition in an aggressively ignorant manner isn't wrong or political to them. I don't think you really understand what's happening, what has been happening for generations. Bro, for generations? We are more left, we are more progressive in Western society than we have been ever. Ever. So, I do understand what's happening. Culture, society, at least in the West, has been moving in a progressive leftist kind of direction for the most part. There's some 2 steps forward, 1 steps back things, but for the most part, it's been leaning that, despite us not punching grandma in the face over Thanksgiving meals, right? Despite us not kicking out Uncle Joe because he made a distasteful comment, right, that we don't like. Despite not disavowing our aunts who had a Reagan shirt or a Pat Buchanan shirt or a Trump shirt, right? Like, this has all been happening despite us not doing whatever you want us. I'm still not sure what you want us to do with our families members who don't conform or whatever, right? But yeah, more of this. It's easy to say this when you haven't faced retribution from your own family and close friends for changing political mindsets. Bros, I've been kicked out of my house on Christmas, right? For related issues. Okay, so this like acting as if I've never felt any blowback from any kind of political stance I've taken with my family. Um, Wild. Now, of course, my family, I love my family, right? Generally they're pretty good. So I can imagine there's some family members who are far worse than mine, but like let's not pretend that I've faced nothing from this. We got a few people who agree with me, right? Blah 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 blah. Oh, here we go. Dude is Hitler, so I'm good with cutting people off. Before people say Hitler killed 6 million Jews, he is Hitler before he killed the Jews. You know what? Yes, you should cut off Hitler. You shouldn't let Hitler in to the family gathering, right? But someone who voted for Trump is a little different, okay? They're not Hitler, I promise you. Not most of them. Look, if they are Hitler, then, do your own thing. But if they're not, and they just happen to have a disagreement with you about the politics of things, what are we doing here, gang? What are we doing? Oh, and here's my favorite. This has been my favorite response, okay? I won't even debate. You're a coward, hiding behind kindness and understanding. You will never understand what a real person feels when they see family members hurting them. Man, if your family member is hurting you, that's different. That's different. But if you define family member as hurting you because they voted for a different political party than you, then get the fuck out of here. Leave. I'm a coward hiding behind kindness and understanding. Come on. What are we doing? What are we doing here? What is going on? I'm definitely wrong on this one, Jovan. What do you suggest I do to my family members who have voted Trump? Should I refuse to talk to them? Should I refuse to be in the same domicile as they are? What should I do precisely? What do you think's going to work? Okay? What do you think's going to what do you think's going to help them maybe be less Republican, right? Do you think me simply just refusing to talk to them and throwing a fit is going to make them think, wow, man, Democrats are sure stable. Wow, I want to be involved with that party who makes my relatives into mentally stable individuals. Wow, I think I'll vote for them next time. Do you think that's going to happen? Jovan says it's not whether you should or not. It's that if you do, it's not wrong. No, I take the strong stance. If you are cutting off a political family member or a family member simply only because they have a difference of political opinion than you and voted for Trump or voted for Kamala for that matter, because I'm not just talking, this doesn't just happen on the left. A lot of Republicans do, well, I won't say a lot, but there's plenty on the right who do this as well. And I've seen it happen, right? Like they'll make posts, if you voted for Harris, then I'm not gonna help you out if you need if you're in trouble. Then fuck off. I don't understand why you guys don't see this as wrong. It's simply wrong to do. Like, it would be wrong of me if I was walking down the street and my neighbor, who has a bunch of Trump signs in their yard, okay, they got a bunch of Trump signs. I'm pretty sure I know how they voted, okay? If they're bleeding out, or let's not even go that far, okay? If they are, if I know that they're suffering in a certain way and I have the ability to help them, okay? Like if their car won't start, I got jumper cables. I could help. I could pull out my car, help jump their car. If I don't, simply because they voted for Trump, that's wrong. That's wrong. And same the other side. If you are a Republican and you support Trump or whatever, or the Republican Party, and you're walking along and you see some blue-haired liberal with a with like a "We're never going back" T-shirt on, okay, and they got a flat tire on the side of the road, and you refuse to stop to help them simply because they are Democrat, you're wrong. That's wrong. You've committed a sin. Not to use like religious language, but there it is, right? You've done something that's morally reprehensible. I don't get it. I don't get why you guys don't get this. Why you don't understand. Homie agrees with me. Boom. I agree with you too, homie. Chad Pello says, some of my best friends are deep blue Democrats and we just agree to disagree or hash it out respectfully. Yeah, no, look, there's some family members I know I can't bring up political topics with because it'll start a fight. Yeah, so you know what we do? We don't bring up political topics. We eat our turkey. We enjoy and talk about the host of other things in our lives that do not involve politics. And we go about our day. And yeah, if politics does come up, we do a little yelling, right? We do a little fighting. I don't back down. But like, we aren't going to like disinvite each other from our family gatherings just because we don't agree politically. I just... Tessie Johnson says, what upset Wick to decide to stream on Saturday? What are we ranting back? I'm ranting about people in tribalism, I guess, right? Holy shit, he has a tooth. I know! Gang, for those of you just getting here, I got my tooth fixed. To all the doubters and the haters, to everyone who did their little fanfic saying I had stolen the money, fuck you, right? Like, never believe them again, right? Of course I didn't steal the money. Of course I was always going to use it. So, yeah, here we are. Concluding postscript says, respectful disagreement is a lost art. True. Now, keep in mind, this is a temp. On the 6th of December, I get the real one, but this one's just to kind of tide me over. So it's not quite done, but it's it's pretty much, it's paid for and everything. So, you know, we're here. Maybe you guys don't believe me when I say this. Maybe we have to watch some of the video, okay? Nikolai says, Wick stole the 2024 Kamala campaign money to fix his tooth. Yeah. Is that going to be the new thing now? Okay. Let's read a couple more of these and then we'll watch the video and see what was so terrible that was said. Let's read a couple more. Here's one. My dad laughed at my anguish and said gay marriage will still be legal in some states. Your expectation is I spend the holidays with that? Must be nice not to have these issues. Must be why so many white men voted for him. It's just not reality for people like you. You guys know I voted for Harris, right? Like, I don't know what to say. Because he laughed at you? Is that all he did? Is laugh? Bro. He just laughed? That's it? He was happy that his guy won? I don't know. Like, what are you doing here? Mr. Jordan here says, I disagree. If you think Trump is a threat to democracy and our way of life, I think it's perfectly reasonable to treat his supporters the same way. It's not gonna fix anything. Just because I believe it doesn't mean they believe it. It's going to make it worse. Do we not understand this? If you treat Trump supporters like they're evil, it's going to make things worse. If they act evil, by all means, right? But simply the act of supporting Trump is not evil. It doesn't make them evil. I don't get it. Great message. Be nice to the fascist supporters destroying our country. They will be nice to you as we descend into New dark age. You understand that I would venture to say 90% of the people who voted for Trump think they're voting against fascism. Right? Look, I'm not saying that you have to be like buddy with every Trump supporter ever. No. Some of them are assholes. And if they act in an asshole manner, it's fine not to hang out with them. That's okay. That's okay. But if they're otherwise cordial, otherwise polite, otherwise reasonable and respectful, and the only thing they did was have a difference of opinion politically and vote accordingly, I don't know what to tell you. It's on you if you do this weird unhinged thing. And again, like even from a strategic perspective, it doesn't help. Nothing gets better. They don't suddenly see the error of their ways. Like this guy here. This guy here says maybe fewer people would support Trump if they were made to actually experience that their views are socially unacceptable. Oh no, they don't have to deal with someone who is emotionally stunted enough to cut off their families. What a terrible punishment. Oh no. Oh no, how are they ever going to cope or deal with this? What are you doing? What are you doing? You're going to isolate yourself? You're going to make sure that you have no friends left because they've all disagreed with your 290-point plan on progressivism, so you can't ever, right, like, have a friend anymore? Like, oh no, such a punishment to everyone around you. They don't get the pleasure of your company. No. Look, the interaction benefits all parties. You included. Show probable spam. I'm not going to do that. I don't know what's under there. Twitter sometimes can get crazy. Twitter sometimes can get crazy. Okay, $5 from Dwight Baldwin says, Wick, glad tooth on the mend. Best to cut back on all your sugar now. No more Cokes. I don't know what to tell you. I like Cokes. It wasn't Coke that broke my tooth. But you know, you're right. I should be more healthy. I should. Should do a lot of things. Okay. Should do a lot of things. But thank you for the $5. I really appreciate you. Thank you for the support. It's a Wick workout stream when I can figure out a way to like get like one of those GoPro cams or something, or maybe get my cell phone set up so I can like actually run. Yeah, I should. Yeah, no, look, laugh. That's okay to laugh at. Yeah. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect man. Okay. I have flaws, believe it or not. I should eat more healthy. Yes. Absolutely. You're correct. Will I do it? Probably not. It tastes delicious. Demise says, Wick, it's because they don't really care about the world or politics. They're bread tubers, weaponize people in politics. Well, that's another like, that's another angle to this, is there are actors on all sides who make a lot of money getting you to hate the other side. Zero fucks. Hello, hello, hello. Jovan says, I feel like you are strawmanning. It's not any disagreement on politics. It's supporting a specific person. What do you like? Yeah, supporting Trump. Okay, I'll be more clear. If you're cutting off family members for supporting Trump, or you don't help someone who has like a Trump t-shirt on simply because they have a Trump t-shirt on, I'm not talking about someone who's rude to you or an asshole to you or anything like that. I'm talking about you driving down the street, you see a guy on the side of the road, a guy or girl, it doesn't matter, right? And they got a MAGA hat on and a flat tire. If the only reason you don't stop is because they have that MAGA hat on. That is wrong. Firechild says, looking good, buddy. Hell yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Tomfoolery Show says, yeah, stigmatizing bad beliefs is how they go away historically. Yeah. That how we do it? We just isolated ourselves. And that's all you're doing is you're just hurting yourself. They're not hurt. Nyersock says, if I see a Kamala or a Biden shirt, I just yell slurs. Which slurs? Warren Burger says, Wick, did you steal the money and steal a tooth? Yes. That's what happened. I took that $3,000 and went on an orgy of cocaine, okay, and hookers. It was only $3,000, so it wasn't that big of a orgy or not a lot of cocaine. But I also happened, one of the hookers had a spare tooth, and I took it, okay? So now I have a hooker tooth. Jovan says, I'm going to stop and ask them where their community church is at to change their tire. That would be funny, but it would be wrong to do. I'd laugh, though. Zoo says, I'm black and I don't want to die. Profiling for safety is... Hold up. Hold up. Are we being serious? Zoo, come on. Are we being serious right now? If a guy walks in with a MAGA hat on, do you fear for your life? I'm asking sincerely, is this how you actually feel? Guy walks in, he's got a MAGA hat on. Are you afraid for your life now? Simply based on that information? Give him a minute to respond. That's another problem. If you are so scared that if you see a MAGA hat, that you become so afraid that you can't, like, for your life, right? That's almost a... How do we even reckon with that as a society? How do we deal with that? Because that's a problem, okay? We get that that's a huge issue. If that's correct. Zoo says no, but profiling for safety is smart. Sure. Yes. If you're going down the street and you see this shady guy and he's got like knives and he's wearing a hockey mask and there's blood dripping from the knives, you know what? Keep going. Don't stop. I get it, right? You're fine. Like, okay, I understand. Like, okay, yeah, maybe just keep it rolling, buddy. Right? Like, I get you, but I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Tom Foolery says that's how we fix it. Adios, amigos. How do we, what? Did you say something earlier that I missed? That made no sense, and now you're just leaving? Okay. Well, nice to see you for the little bit you stayed and said hi. Let's watch some of the video because I think it's worth watching. Let me get it up, ladies. Okay, give me a second. Let's watch a little, and then I'll pause and talk. We'll do little bit of react for the week. It's a weekend, okay? You know, let me live a little, okay? Let's see what Mr. Marr has to say here. Mayor Marr? I don't know.
Finally, new rule, can we please not let politics fuck up the holidays? Anybody with me on this? Okay. I mean, half the country is moping, half can't stop gloating. Enough! It's fucking Christmas and you will act like it. 'Tis the season and all that. I don't want to read any more articles like the one about the Trump-loving county sheriff in Ohio who posted on Facebook before the election, "If you support the Democratic Party, I will not help you." Well, thank you for your service, worst responder.
Yeah, if you're doing shit like that, and I saw a lot of this from that side, right? I saw a lot of people put up like, oh, if you're a Democrat, then you deserve what you get, right? Like all this crazy stuff. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was un-American, frankly. Un-American. Stuff like that. That's un-American. A police officer who won't stop and serve you if you voted Democrat doesn't deserve to be a police officer.
No wonder the side of your patrol car says to protect and swerve. Hey, asshole, it's your job to help people, all people, not just the ones you agree with. And I would say the same to the FEMA supervisor in Florida who told the rank-and-file relief workers after Hurricane Milton to avoid helping homes with Trump signs on their lawns. This shit has got to stop on both sides.
Yes. Yes. It was wrong when the FEMA person told, and we have this confirmed, right? That the first responders, the FEMA people, right? Not the first responder, I'm sorry. The FEMA people, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, right? They told people, at least one of the low-level guys told the people under him, don't serve the people who have Trump signs in their lawn. Now, the reason they said that, you could argue why, right? But that's bullshit. That's a bullshit thing to do. That causes unnecessary strife, unnecessary pain. Jeet Sauce says they were getting shot at, weren't they? I don't know, but at that case, yes, if a home is shooting at you, you don't have to help them out, sure. But them having a Trump sign in front of the yard isn't indicative that they're going to shoot you. It's just not. Like, again, if you're getting attacked by a house, yeah, you don't have to respond to it. But, again, like, it would be as if, like, they don't want to serve anyone in certain neighborhoods that have high crime because they might get shot at. That's going to end up hurting a lot of people, right? Yeah, you just can't profile like that. You simply can't. Dogpile lick? What are we dogpiling me for? What am I doing? Oh, Little Bits. Thank you for the $2. I appreciate you there. But yeah, and again, a cop saying, I'm not going to protect you or I'm not going to serve you if you're a Democrat. That's un-American. It's not okay. It goes against what these entities are designed to do. It's horrific, actually. It's horrific. Let's keep watching.
This is America. I want to be judged by the content of my character, not what's on my lawn. There's a great article that came out in the Free Press this year by someone who learned this firsthand. It's called Whatever Happens, Love Thy Neighbor. And it tells of how a married couple, who are exactly the portrait of a liberal white couple living in Park Slope, Brooklyn, that you would expect, wind up moving upstate and then are surrounded by Trumpers, and they're petrified. But then, when they get stuck in the snow, the Trump guy down the street doesn't hesitate to help dig the liberals out. The author, Larissa Phillips, says she...
Why is that shocking to anyone, by the way? Right? Like, the idea that they wouldn't... Where did we get that idea? Where did we get the idea that the other side wouldn't help us out if we needed help? Like the rank and file I'm talking, like the normals, right? The peoples. Where did we get that idea? I've never... Maybe it's just me living in the military for a lot of my life, whether it being a dependent, like a military brat, or whether it be actually serving in the Air Force. Yeah, you just don't... If someone needs help, you help them. Okay? You don't check to see if they're a liberal or Republican before you do. And even if you know they're liberal or Republican, you just help them if they need help. This is standard in all communities across the states that I've lived in. It's standard, whether it be in Wichita, whether it be in Florida, whether it be in Pennsylvania, whether it be in California. I've never lived in a community where the community members didn't help each other out regardless, right? I've never lived in that. Now, there were assholes in each of these communities, but that transcended politics, okay? That wasn't anything to do with politics. They were just assholes, okay? Yeah, where did we get this idea? Where did we get this thought that the other side is just not going to help us because we are a Republican or we are a Democrat or whatever? I just don't get it. I haven't read this article, but I need to. I'm going to look into it.
She slowly came to reject the political prejudice so common among my tribe, and that it's hard to care where someone stands on politics when they race to your house to save a dying lamb, when their wife helps search for your runaway dogs, and that she personally has been stunned by the depth of my neighbor's generosity. It's almost like there are fine people on both sides.
Shout out to Lactoid. Shout out to Lactoid.
And that human beings are complicated. If we're going to remain a viable society, there must be some things that transcend politics, like disaster relief and law enforcement and helping neighbors. And fucking Christmas!
Yeah! Yeah! No, I mean, Christmas is just a family get-together, but family, I would say, right? Disaster, law enforcement, family, right? And neighborliness. These things should not involve, we shouldn't check at the door whether someone's a Republican or a Democrat, whether they voted for Trump or voted for Kamala Harris, whatever, right? If someone's in need, you help them, okay? If someone has issues, you help them address their issues. This is never going to help. Half the country, well, I don't want to even say half, but like there's a, hold on, stop. What happened there? A portion of the country sees the other side as irredeemable, that should be cut off, right? That we should never help, that we should never even interact with, because if we do, we're aiding and abetting the enemy. This happens on the left, this happens on the right. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting. It's dehumanizing. I thought, at least on the left, okay? I thought we were against dehumanizing people. I thought that's one of the reasons that we are progressive, is because we are against dehumanizing people. And you want to come here and tell me that, oh, well, just kidding, we can dehumanizing those people because they voted for a guy I didn't like. Fuck all the way off. You either believe that we shouldn't dehumanize people, or you don't. And that's fine if you don't, but don't pretend that you have progressive values, because you don't. Let's keep watching. It's getting me steamed up, kings and queens.
You know, I get it that for the Democrats, this was a brutal loss. But the plan to deal with it has to be something better than stay in a snit and take advantage of this magical time of year to cut people off. The Huffington Post has articles like, "My husband voted for Trump, so I'm canceling Thanksgiving and Christmas." Oh, gee, not having to buy you a present. That'll teach him.
My husband voted for Trump, so I'm canceling Thanksgiving and Christmas. I hope your husband leaves you, ma'am. Not because of your politics, but because of your behavior. You're willing to cancel Christmas and Thanksgiving for your family because, what was it? Your husband and his family voted for Trump? And so you're willing to cancel Christmas and Thanksgiving? Man, they dodged a bullet. Why would they want to deal with you on Thanksgiving and Christmas? What is going on? Someone had to sit down, write this article, edit this article. Someone else had to decide to publish this article. Okay? What are we doing? No one will be helped by this. No one will be helped by this. Donald Trump 1111111111111 says Rob Noor got doxxed right here on Twitch by lunatic lefties, and none of you cared. I've never heard about that at all. Shouldn't dox people. There you go. I care, but I've never heard him being doxxed. If it happened, that sucks. He shouldn't have gotten doxxed, and the people who doxed him are wrong and bad for doing it. But I don't know anything about it, so. Can't help you. Keep watching.
Buy you a present. That'll teach him. But family isn't like gender. You can't fix it by cutting off members.
That's a spicy joke. Okay.
The chief psychiatric resident at Yale University.
Hold up. Donald Trump. None of you have a problem with people like Miss Vivian, who openly threatens to dox anyone who is right wing. You guys know Miss Vivian Wolf. I'm assuming you're talking about Vivian Wolf. She is not welcome on my channel, and she's not welcome in my community. She's been banned, in fact. So I don't know what you're ranting about. What are you going on about? What are you talking about?
University, Amanda Calhoun, recently told Joy Reid it's okay to cut off family members if they voted for Trump and tell them, "I'm not going to be around you this holiday." Oh, how pure. It's like not letting certain people sit with you on the bus.
Spicy jokes. Spicy jokes, gang.
She also said that it shouldn't be automatic that family members think they're entitled to your time. She said that's just a societal norm. Family. Who do they think they are? Family? I mean, think about that. A mental health professional advising people to isolate during the holidays. And don't forget to drink too much and put on weight.
Again, this isn't going to do anything to change their minds. I don't understand that you guys don't understand this, right? You saying to your grandma or to your uncle or to your cousin, you voted for Trump, so I'm not going to spend Thanksgiving with you, won't change their minds. It's going to make them less likely to change their minds in the future. And it's going to make them think you're wackadoo. Think you're mentally ill. And I'm assuming they know you're a leftist, they know you're a progressive, they know you're a Democrat, whatever. They're going to think, wow, Democrats are mentally ill. And they're going to be less likely to take us seriously in the future. They're going to be less likely to vote for us in the future. You have just made it more probable that a Trump-esque person is going to win in the future because you got in a little tit, right? And you had a little fit, and you wanted to tell him off, right? And good job. You have done nothing but harm. You have done nothing but harm. What do you think they're gonna do? What do you think's gonna happen here? Explain it to me like I'm slow, because maybe I am slow. What do you think's gonna happen? You might feel good in the moment, and this is a problem overall, right? That we all want to feel good in the moment, right? And we're not willing to do anything that doesn't feel good right away, or that has any inkling, gives us any anxiety that is hard to do at all, right? But we have to. We have to. The only path forward that has any hope of success is sitting down with family members who disagree with you, friends who disagree with you. That's it does far more than me preaching here on my soapbox, okay, to anyone. That does far more good than any podcaster would, right? Any politician would. To changing minds and winning hearts, that does more good than anything else. That is the best way forward. J-Leet Sauce says, I don't know how you're saying your name, buddy. Says, these people are abusive by nature. This is just another excuse for them to continue their abusive behavior. It would have been something else if Kamala won. Yes, there is a style of person on the left and the right who just wants to throw a fit. True. Warren Berger says, I just stay silent when my dad talks to me about his biblical takes on politics. He finally stopped talking to me about it. Yeah, you don't have to engage. You can just say, hey, I don't want to talk about that. Hey, let's not talk about it at the dinner table. I think that's perfectly reasonable to say, right? Yes, on both sides, Manny to the max. Both sides have this issue, right? It's perfectly okay to say, hey, we disagree politically, but it's Thanksgiving dinner. Let's sit down. Let's eat this turkey. Let's be a family, okay? And then we can fight about it another day, another time. But while we're here in this house at this table, let's just try to get along. That's just a good habit to have for life, okay? To be able to sit and break bread with your quote-unquote enemy, okay? To be able to sit and break bread with someone you vastly disagree with, that's a life skill. It's gonna take you far if you learn this skill. And it is a skill. It's something that can be learned. You can be taught this. You can learn this. You can practice this. You can get better at this. A child throws a tantrum. A child leaves the room when they don't get their way, right? Don't be a child. I know it's Christmas and children get more presents, but goddamn. Oops. You saw my little numbers and stuff. Okay. We should make that money number go up, by the way. Give me more. Okay. Let's keep watching.
And this Thanksgiving, before the big meal, remember to take turns saying what you're hateful about. You know who I really wouldn't want to have Thanksgiving dinner with? This overly educated, i.e. extremely stupid, ivory tower academic. But I would, because if we ever want this nation to heal, this is what we have to do. Force ourselves to reach out and find out why someone feels the way they do and make the choices they make without prejudging them a monster. And they must do the same for you. I mean, what? Thank you, one guy.
He's right, though. figure out why. And the only way you will actually do that isn't by listening to my podcast, by going and asking them, talking to them, interacting with them. Hey, you voted for Trump, Uncle Jane, or Uncle Joe and Aunt Jane. Man, why? And they'll tell you. Promise, they'll tell you. Okay? I'm not going to be able to tell you why. Watching some liberal leftist Save America podcast isn't going to tell you why, right? You got to ask them. You got to talk to them. You got to actually interact with them. It's crazy, I know. But that's the only way you're going to figure it out.
But I mean, seriously, whatever happened to, why can't we have the Christmas spirit all year round? Now it's, hey, it's Christmas time. Get the fuck out of my house. I can't look at you.
2 Christmases ago, I got kicked out of my sister's house, gang. Okay. Well, to be more correct, my mother got kicked out and I left in solidarity, because you don't kick out my mom. Okay. My sister kicked out my mom. Don't do it. Especially not on Christmas. It was over nothing. It was over nothing. Nothing important. Don't do it.
Fuck off. And while you're at it, go have your baby in the barn. I mean, can we have a little perspective? At the first Thanksgiving, the Indians somehow found it within themselves to sit down with the Pilgrims who were there to steal their land and slaughter them. And you're telling me you can't suck it up and watch the Fiesta Bowl with Uncle Cletus? There's even a trend now among liberal women of wearing blue bracelets to signal that they're Kamala voters and therefore safe to approach and talk to, because God forbid you fall into some checkout line chit-chat with, gasp, a Republican.
They're wearing these blue bracelets, gang. Have you heard about this? There's more to it, right? And he'll get into it. But they're wearing these like blue bracelets to kind of signal their allegiance, to signal that they're safe to talk to. Okay, look. If you've decided to wear a signal that you're safe to talk to, whether you're a man or a woman, I don't care, right? That's going to have the opposite effect on people like me. I'm going to be like, oh, look, a crazy person. Oh, look, it's a crazy person. I might still talk to you because, look, I'm a streamer for a reason. I kind of like talking to crazy people. It's true. I do, kind of, right? At least a little. So it might work on me. But, like, most people are going to see that and be like, wow, this person's insane. Oh, wow, they're mentally ill. And while you'll attract people like Darius, okay, most people are going to be like, not going to talk to you. And they might even be, they're probably, Kamala supporters too, right? Like this idea that Trump people aren't safe to interact with and talk to, okay? Trump people aren't safe to talk to or to interact with is pernicious. It's a pernicious lie. It just is. And if you're on the other side and you're thinking, well, you can't really, like Andrew Tate said something really. He doesn't interact with liberals. He doesn't debate liberals anymore, right? Well, it's because he kept getting BTFO'd by them, first of all. Second of all, that's such an asinine way of viewing the world. That just because the other side has political differences than you, they're unsafe. Such a coward's way of viewing the world. Show one video of Tate getting BTFO'd by a liberal. Literally any conversation he's had with a liberal. Literally anyone. He's not good at debate. Look, again, if you want to wear your little bracelet, go ahead. But you're signaling a lot more than you intend with your little bracelets, okay? That's all I'm saying. Let's keep watching the video. Thank you for the sub, Rabid Wombat. Take my money, you dirty dem. Merry Christmas. Well, it's not even December yet. Happy Thanksgiving. How's that? We'll go with Happy Thanksgiving.
And many young women are now also pledging never to have sex with any man who voted for Trump. Really? That's your big plan? Embargoing the pussy? It's so egotistical, as if the ultimate punishment is not letting people have you. Hey, you know what? You weren't fucking Trump-type guys anyway. Well, except for Taylor.
Swifty joke. Look, yeah, if you don't want to have sex with a Trump person, okay. But honestly, like, look, I don't know. No one's. I can only speak for me here. I'm not a Trump supporter, right? I voted for Harris, but I've had people who won't, women who won't interact with me because of certain beliefs I have, and rant runs the gamut. Okay. You know what I do in those situations? Okay. And then I leave. And you know how bad I feel? Not at all. In fact, I'm glad they tell me up front. I feel a sense of relief that I've dodged a bullet. Like, oh, this wasn't going to work at all. Good thing I didn't spend any time or energy into this. And I go off and do other things. Again, this idea that you're gonna change minds and, you know, get him to stop. Like, no, it's fantasy, gang. It's never gonna work. It's silly. If you think it's gonna work, you're silly. I don't know what to tell you. Let's keep watching.
As for Trump himself, I guarantee you he's going to have a good Christmas. I'm sure Mar-a-Lago already has bells ringing and stockings hung like Arnold Palmer. Trump couldn't ask for a greater holiday gift than knowing that an embittered liberal spent what should be a day of joy all by themselves, drinking cage-free eggnog and crying in their "We Are Not Going Back" t-shirt. Don't let him do it. Don't let Trump live in your brain like RFK's worm. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't let him make you hate your family more than you do already. That's what Secret Santa is for. Look, we had an election. Trump will get the White House again, but this time, he's not going to get my mind.
Can we all commit to that? My leftist progressive audience. Don't let Trump make us into bad people. Don't let the Republicans change who we are. Don't let that happen. Don't let them do it. Don't let them turn you into the kind of person that kicks out grandma on Christmas because they're wearing a MAGA hat. Don't let them turn you into the type of person who doesn't stop to help someone with a Trump shirt on who has a flat tire on the side of the road. Don't let them change you like that. Don't give them that power. You have control. You have the power, right? Be good in spite of them. Be happy in spite of them. It takes real courage, real discipline, real adultness to treat everyone around you with kindness and respect. The easy way out is to be like, that person voted against what I like, fuck them. That's easy. It's so easy. It's easier now than it's ever been before to cut people off. In all venues, whether it be real life or online, It's the easiest it's ever been to isolate ourselves and silo ourselves into little echo chambers that are never challenged, that have no views outside of our own. We can cut ourselves off into these different segments that are pure and ethnocentric politically, right? Our own little political ethno-states, if you will. It's never been easier to do. What with technology being how it is, what with everything being so isolated nowadays because of a variety of factors. Don't let them do it. Stop letting them push you out of America. Don't. Trump won the election. He doesn't have to win your soul, okay? He doesn't have to win your soul. Only you get to decide whether he does that or not. No one else. Okay, Donald Trump, we can't have that. I'll get banned from Twitch for that. So I am going to time you out. We can't do race stuff in the Twitch chat. Can't say those words. Sorry. I just happened to notice it. Look, if you want to come to my Discord, cool. But in my Twitch chat, you can't say that shit. Sorry. Hey, I'm a hypocritical lefty because I banned someone who's going to threaten my monetization. Maybe I'm a hypocrite for it, but my monetization. Firechild says, do we really think the type of people we see online who support Trump are going to actually behave themselves and not try to piss off everyone in the family they know is a Democrat, ostracize them? But if they aren't doing anything to cause problems and kicking them out simply because they voted Trump, is it helping anyone come to our side? Yeah, look, if they come to the family dinner drunk, throwing a fit, tossing the tables or whatever, then they have behaved in a way that is unacceptable. Do what you got to do, okay? But don't obey in advance. Don't comply in advance. Don't give Trump. Trump wants this, by the way. Trump and his ilk want this. They want you to throw a fit. They want you to to isolate yourselves, to kick out your family, right? They want you to cancel Thanksgiving and Christmas. They want you to write articles about it and do op-eds about it and make tweets about it. They want you to be vocal as possible about it. It helps them. It helps them. And by engaging in this behavior, you are helping them. Do you get it? Do you understand? Because it makes you look like loons. Yes, Luminez. It makes us look mentally ill. Same way you feel when you see a Trumper, right? Guy in a MAGA shirt saying, oh, F them liberals. I'm never going to support a liberal again. If a liberal needs help, I'm never going to help him. Think of how you feel when a MAGA guy says that. When a guy with a red hat, right, and the Make America Great Again hat says all that kind of shit, right? Think of what you think of that person, right? Think, wow, this guy's crazy. This guy's off his rocker. This guy's un-American. This guy's unpatriotic. This guy's an asshole. That's what we think when we look and they behave that way. And it's true, they are. When we behave in the same way, what do you think the normal Republicans think of us? What do you think most people, even leftists, other leftists, think of you? They think the same thing. They think, wow, that person is mentally ill. Wow, that person needs therapy. That person is crazy. Because you are. You're acting crazy. You're acting like a fool. Let's be the party that's not crazy. How's that? Let's be the party that doesn't throw a fit and cancel Christmas because hubby or wifey voted for Trump. Sorry, kids. You can't see Uncle anymore because he voted for Trump. Sorry if you had a bond with him. I'm going to cut that shit off right now. Sorry, kids. Sorry, niece. I can't come visit anymore because your mom, Aunt Lydia, voted for Trump. Sorry. I'm going to cut you off too because I can't have that in my life, right? I'm just too emotional right now. I don't know names, okay? I'm making the names up as I go, okay? If Lydia's not a good one, you know what I mean. Aunt Lydia, you bitch. Look, I don't know, man. Like, it's the first thing that came to mind. Stop. You don't have to come at me like this, okay? You guys don't have to come at me like this. I don't know what you're doing. Home Alone 2 becomes a trigger movie. You don't have to let him live in your head rent free, okay? You can evict him. Okay? You don't have to let your family members, you don't have to let Trump control your actions and dictate your actions. Why would you ever? But that's exactly what you're doing when you cut off family and friends simply because they voted for Trump. You are letting Trump control you. Me, Trump doesn't get to control me. Republicans don't control me. Republicans don't get a say. It's my body, my choice. My mind, my choice. It's my family, my choice. And no politician is going to get me to not love my family. Only my family can do that. Aircraft Sparky says, my aunt is playing this game of separating herself from our family. She's a Kamala supporter, and when she said she wasn't coming, I told her that was sad, but her choice. I still love her, though. Yeah, I mean, that is sad. It's sad. She is letting Trump destroy her family. She doesn't have to. Like, this is not necessary. It's not helpful, right? No one in your family, Aircraft Sparky, is going to be more likely to vote Democrat because your aunt decides not to come to Thanksgiving. No one is helped. Nothing good comes of it. What if she made the awesome apple pie, though? Man, I don't know, man. There's a lot of people who make real good apple pie, okay? I'm not look, I'm not an apple pie fan, actually. A pumpkin pie is greater and better. Maybe you'll cancel me for this take, okay? Pumpkin pie is better than apple pie by a large margin. Pumpkin pie with the Cool Whip, delicious. Delicious. Look, some people so I don't know if you guys saw my show Thursday where I had Short Fat Taco on, Brianna Wu, and a few others, right? Counterpoints came. A few people asked me why I didn't bring someone like that's super right on, right? One of the bigger names that are far right on. I think the people they mentioned were like Sargon of Akkad, Archcast. There's a couple other names mentioned I don't recall off the top of my head. Gang, like I have reached out to these big right wing creators. I have. I've DM'd them or I've gotten other people to try to contact them for me, right, that know them personally. They've said no to me. They don't really go out of their circle. I would love to have a right-wing thought leader on my show to have these kinds of discussions. Would be great. Find one who'll say yes, and I'll have them on. Rob Noor is not a right-wing thought leader. He's a nice guy, but he's not a right-wing thought leader. Nice guy, though. The Destiny Lawrence Southern drama. Look. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I don't care. I just don't care about that stuff. I'll give my take here. As long as there wasn't any coercion, abuse, or manipulation, or rape or anything, whatever. Do what you want to do. I haven't looked in it too deep, obviously. But I don't... It's just a big fat none of my business. Like the Hunter Avalon shit. I didn't cover that either. Big fat none of my business. Right? There's a lot of, like, familial stuff, drama, that just isn't my business. Not my business. I don't know. Zero Fox says, I didn't read the DMs. I caught wind of a few in passing, but I stopped listening and watching. I don't like reading DMs anyway, especially if it isn't something important. Well, yeah, there is that too. Like, I've seen a few of them, but it's private DMs. Like, it's private conversations. And it feels wrong to air them. It feels wrong to, like, make them into content. And I'd have the same view if, like, I got a DM, for example. If I got if someone leaked to me a bunch of, I don't know, Andrew Wilson DMs of him cheating on his wife or something, right? I wouldn't make content out of that. That's wrong. It would feel wrong to do. It would feel like a violation, and it would be like destroying his family. And I'm not a Wilson fan by any means. I think he's kind of a dumbass and a dick. But it's not something I would engage in. Again, yeah, if it's different if they were, like, breaking the law, then I'd probably report it to the authorities, honestly. But just this kind of, like, drama, interpersonal sex stuff. Miss me with that, okay? Roll of the D says if they were leaked to the public, you'd cover it, though. That's not true. I didn't cover the Hunter Avalon leaks. I didn't cover the Destiny leaks. I wouldn't cover these leaks. Just not kind of my content. And I know I miss out on a lot of money by not covering them, but it's just one of those lines I got. Just one of those lines I got that I don't fuck with people's families like that and fuck with people's private sex lives or whatever. It's just, I don't. Did you cover the Prime thing involving Dylan's girlfriend? That was during my, so I didn't actually, but I can't take credit for not doing that because I'd also not really been streaming during that time. So, I knew about it. I talked about it amongst my social circles, right? And if you think I don't have opinions, you're wrong, right? I talk about it in private amongst my social circles, but yeah, I didn't make it into content. I was still sort of new then, yeah. True. The To Kill a Mockingbird arc was wild. This is private, you can tell us. I don't know, gang. I don't know. Oh man, I appreciate you all showing up. By the way, I'm never sure who's gonna show up, especially when, again, I got no real plan, and I just kind of decided to go, right? Like to stream this. Econo Boy, nice to see you. Econo Boy, are you gonna eat Thanksgiving dinner with your Trump supporting family if you have Trump supporters in your family, or are you gonna kick them out? That was the subject today. I don't know if you caught it, but we were covering statement I made and the responses to it. So I'm just curious, kind of, are you gonna eat? Will you eat Thanksgiving dinner with your Trump supporting aunt or uncle? If it's personal, that's okay. Like, honestly, maybe I shouldn't have asked in public, but I was just curious. 90% of my family are MAGA hyper Trumpers, and we have Thanksgiving, Christmas get-togethers every year. Based, Econo Boy, you get mad respect, mad points for that. Based in humanity and family pilled. Okay, that's a solid Econo Boy W. Okay, solid W. I knew you were good people, Econo Boy. I knew it. I don't care what they say about you. I like you, Econo Boy. And that's how we have to do it. If we have any hope of getting out of this crazy world we're living in, we gotta at least be willing to talk to each other, okay? Is that so? Why do people get so mad at me about when I say this? That's the reason I streamed today. The Doc House show says people doing the separation shit are a rarity. Like, fair, maybe, but they're a vocal rarity. And it's the reason I streamed today, is because, again, I made this anodyne tweet. Super, super simple, super anodyne. Like, hey, I've lived in red areas. When I needed help, even though they knew I was a Democrat, people helped me. When they needed help, even though they got like a Trump sign in their yard, I helped them. That's how it should be. That's just being normal. That's just being human. Easy tweet. Should have gotten all the likes and updates. No controversy. But it was a very controversial tweet that people were yelling at me, calling me a coward. They called me a coward because I made that. I'm a coward hiding behind kindness. What? So I had to rant about it. I had to get it off my chest, and I appreciate you guys helping me. Helping me out here. Like, if you don't believe me, I have to tweet right here. Like, let me get it back up. Like, it's right there, and you can see it. This is well, there's a few of them, but like this was the one. I'll show you guys again if you guys don't believe me. I won't even debate you. You're a coward hiding behind kindness and understanding. You will never understand what a real person feels like when they see a family member hurting them. Like, a real person. Am I not a real person to you? What, do you think I'm fake? Yeah, I use a fake name, but that's because you guys are crazy and would dox me otherwise, right? So I don't use my real name, no. Stop being so kind, asshole. Yeah, it is no... Look, I'm not saying that you have to put up with abuse. If your family is abusing you, that's not what I'm talking about. That's different. If they're abusing you, leave. But them having voted for Trump isn't abuse. Them having a different opinion than you politically isn't abuse. Chiba Hawk says, anyone that voted for the convicted felon are in fact voting to have you abused? Do you really believe that? Do you believe that your grandmama wants you to be abused and therefore voted for Trump in order to make sure that you get hurt? Do you believe that? Or is that just something you're saying? Shiba Hawk says 100% yes. They should have known what they were voting for. Ignorance is no excuse. I genuinely am struggling on how to properly reach you in this. Because I think you're dead wrong. First of all. I think that you're just making it worse. You're making everything worse when you do things like this. Again, I'm not saying that they're abusing. Like, again, if they're calling you the F slur, okay, that's different. But if they're just like wearing their MAGA hat to Christmas, that's not abusing you. They have a difference of political opinion. That's not abuse. Disagreeing with you is not abuse. As much as you may hate it, as much as it may feel bad, they're free to disagree with you. But Econoboy, you said something there, and I want to talk about it. So Econoboy says, in my opinion, there's a need for radical change in how we regulate the internet, news, and social media. I'm very against the regulation stuff. But when we talk about is there problems with how the media portrays things, I think that this is a good example of a huge problem that we have because we're being taught to hate each other and see each other as a threat. We're being taught this. There are people on all sides of the aisle here. I'm talking centrists who are pushing that both sides are bad and evil and the same, right? I'm talking leftists who are talking about MAGA is going to kill you. And I'm talking about MAGA who's saying the leftists are commies that are going to kill you, right? Like, there are people who are making a lot of money dividing America. Turning brother against father. They're making a boatload of money. Ginning up your fear of the other side. Okay. Saying you should hate your mom because your mom voted for Trump. And there's articles about this, right? There are newscasters who have people on, therapists on, who say it's okay to cut off your family members because they voted for Trump. This isn't some, like, it might be a rarity, but it is a vocal one. And it is a problem. And it is not helping us. It's going to hurt us politically. And that doesn't help either. That doesn't help either. Like, saying things like it's time to accept the leftists or irredeemable statists that hate humanity. That's the problem I'm talking about. Not to single you out. That's the problem I'm talking about right there. When you say this group is irredeemable, they hate humanity, and you need to fear them. Yes, you're wrong. You're wrong. There are thousands of different people on the left, hundreds of thousands of different people on the left who don't see humanity as a threat or irredeemable, right? There are thousands, hundreds of thousands, dare I say millions of people in the progressive political caucus who don't hate everyone. X says, COVID taught us everything we need to know about the left. Pure authoritarianism. COVID? I just fundamentally disagree. You can think that the left was wrong about COVID, That's fair. But this idea that they are, what did you say? What's the word? Pure authoritarianism is just wrong. Just incorrect. It's not pure authoritarianism to, again, you can think this is wrong. You can think that we're incorrect to do this, to want to shut something down for a time so that a pandemic doesn't kill us, right? Now, you could say they were wrong. They got that wrong, and that's fair, right? But to view that as pure authoritarianism and to carry that with you and to have that as part of the left forever and ever going on, it's just not true, and it's going to lead you to make bad decisions and make bad judgment calls because you're basing something off of something that is not reality. X says, you have leftists like a connoisseur in your connoisseur? Okay. Sorry, connoisseur. That was kind of funny. You have leftists like the connoisseur in your chat right now advocating for regulation of free speech. Me and a connoisseur don't agree on a lot of things. We agree on some things. If that's what he's saying, I disagree with him, okay? But, like, that doesn't mean he's pure authoritarian. I have disagreements, right, with people on the right who want to, for example, regulate food, right, when it comes to like seed oils and stuff. That's one of RFK Jr.'s things he wants to do. He wants to regulate authoritarianly, right, all these things about food. Some of those things I agree with, to be clear. Some I don't. But I don't think that makes him pure authoritarian. It just doesn't. Connoisseur can elaborate if he wants. You know what? You want to come in for a minute? I've covered what I planned to cover when I went live. So if you want to jump backstage. Why is Kamikaze says, "Oh God, anti-free speech on the of the internet. People are the worst." Well, let's see what a connoisseur has to say before we castigate him. Hey, you're live, buddy. Give me a second.
Mr. TV, as I like to call him.
Hi, how you doing, buddy?
How's life been since the election?
Oh, you know, we're getting through it. It's been good and bad. Good and bad.
I'm telling you, you and Rob Norris should do an IRL podcast. I don't know how far away you guys are, but
I talked to him about that before the election, right? Like, I wanted to kind of do like I wanted to do like something in person at like a campaign event. This was months ago, but I think he got mad at me.
oh no.
Yeah, I had him
Rob
on
gets,
my
I don't
show.
know if
Okay.
I don't know if Rob gets mad or like how do I put this? I feel like Rob basically always gets angry during conversation, but I don't know that he's actually like angry
Well, we
with
talked.
you.
We would talk in
Okay.
private, right? In like DMs and stuff. Not like a ton, right? But we had interactions, right? But then I had a panel with him, Brianna Wu, and a couple others. And after that, he just went radio silent on me. So I don't know if I offended him or if his audience hates me enough that they don't want him to talk to me anymore. I'm not sure what happened, but he stopped talking to me. So.
I mean, I know that he has a really busy, he has like a very volatile work schedule. So I don't know if, that's my understanding at least. So I don't know if he's just been like busy with work lately.
It could be that, right? It might well be that, but yeah, I'm more. What I'm saying is, if he wanted to do an IRL podcast or something with me, I'd be happy to.
There we go. Meet in the middle of PA, wherever you guys live, and make it happen.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I just came in to clarify, dude. The conservatives in your chat are a hilarious bunch. But basically, to clarify what I was saying about regulation on media and whatnot, I think my fundamental position is motivated by the idea that, I do think that these social media echo chambers are like a really, they're not bad, just in some local sense of like, oh, isn't it just kind of bad that people are in echo chambers? Like, no, I think they're really bad. Like, I think they really are a decently large reason why we see this rise of sort of political extremism from many different communities in the world.
How do you feel about the flight to blue sky that's happening?
Mm,
A lot of people on the left
yeah.
are just moving there, and it's becoming, at least reportedly, kind of like
Mhm.
the same thing that happened with when a bunch of Republicans moved to like Gab. It just becomes this
Yeah.
very partisan thing.
I mean, in terms of what a private platform, how it regulates itself, I don't really have a big problem. I don't know that. I guess it depends on how you would want to regulate social media. But the way that we currently regulate it, I don't have a big problem with like Twitter saying they don't want to make harsh moderating decisions, and then like maybe a place like Blue Sky doing the opposite.
Mm.
So I would just generally say that people are free to move between platforms however they want, and I don't really, take that to be something that's worth preventing. I just think that like some of the ways that I would want to re-regulate the internet media, for instance, is that I just think that sorting algorithms should just be banned. Like I don't think that that should be a thing that
Really?
you
Okay.
should be able to do. Well, yeah, because it's not good when one of the things about that I think generally speaking makes for good political discourse is if people have sort of a strength of opinion weighted to how much they've looked into politics. And I think in general, we kind of saw that for most of human history, where some people would be, hyperactive into politics, and so they would have, very strong opinions. And that doesn't mean that people tended to be left or more right wing over time. It's just like that tended to be the case. But what I've noticed that the internet's kind of created is a divergence from strength of opinion, or you could say weakness of opinion, and the amount at which people have genuinely sort of detached it, in a detached sense, looked into things. And that's what I notice when I talk to so many people about politics is that a lot of people seem to have a lot stronger political views nowadays, but we haven't really seen like an explosion of political research or actually sort of genuine interest in politics. And I think that part of that at least could be explained by these sort of sorting algorithms and sensationalist media kind of putting people into this vicious cycle of seeing sensationalist news media, going and doing research, but the research is sorted to reinforce your views that you already have based on that sensationalist media. And then you watch more sensationalist media because now that's all that's being served to you. And now you're just in this spiral and you're
This,
kind of
yeah, didn't this
impossible to get out.
happen like before the internet? Like, didn't this already
Well,
happen? I wonder how much.
yeah.
Let me finish my thought here. I wonder how much this just makes it easier for us to do it, rather than it's causing it to happen. More like it facilitates it, but it's not the cause. I think the idea that algorithms or whatever are causing this is wrong. I think it's maybe a facilitator, it's maybe not helping, but it is something that we are choosing to do. I think that the ease of which we can ignore anything that disagrees with us and accept anything that does, and or anyone who disagrees with us or anyone who does, is part of the problem. But explain. Go ahead. Why am I wrong?
Well, I think yeah, like we have a history, a human history of radical politics even before the information age that we live in now. So of course it's the case that people might, millions of Germans voted for Hitler, for instance, right, in a what was a sort of nominally fair election. And so, I think that obviously you could have a lot of radical sentiment in politics. This is what created fascism, created socialism, and these kind of things because the circumstances were so dire in a lot of these places that tended people towards probably more radical thought. But that's kind of environmentally true. I think that it's significant when people say that, well, the internet makes this problem so substantially worse than it used to be. And it allows, especially, I think, it allows bad faith actors to really, really effectively spread a message and engage, encircle people in this atmosphere of propaganda. And again, that's not to say that political parties haven't always engaged in propaganda or that the news media hasn't maybe done some of that themselves, obviously. But I think that the profit motive in news media, the information age, the sorting algorithms, the social media age that we live in, all of these things sort of intersect and end up exacerbating, um, taking advantage essentially of maybe some fundamental human psychology, which is, you're just sort of susceptible to fake news and propaganda and these kind of things. And so I just think that, yeah, like having some regulations with regards to saying, yeah, sorting algorithms probably should be banned. Advertising in general should probably
Sorting
be
out
scaled
what
back.
what does that mean? Sorting algorithms should be banned. Like, can you give us like, uh, yeah, how does that look
Yeah.
practically?
Like when you go to YouTube and your homepage, you would basically only see people that you've directly subscribed to. But when you search for something, like if I were to search for, I don't know, like let's say that I was searching for a political topic, I would search for Barack Obama affordable healthcare plan or something like that, or like Barack Obama healthcare plan. Instead of seeing, the algorithm says, oh, this guy watched Brian Tyler Cohen video and a David Pakman video. So now when I search for that, I'm seeing basically only left-leaning outlets, or that's like very disproportionately what I see. Instead of seeing that, I would just see essentially either a random assortment of whatever just happened to be the more popular videos at the
Just a
time.
random one, like no sorting?
Well, no, like again, it would be sorted not based on your previous preferences, but just based on like almost like a old-fashioned Google style where it would just be a genuine attempt of like, hey, here's a survey of videos that have to do with Obama's healthcare plan with no particular partisan tilt one way or the other. And, I think that generally speaking would be a better way to regulate things. And that's how YouTube used to be. This isn't, the sorting algorithms have only really taken off, exploded in popularity over the last maybe 5 or 10 years. They're
I'm
not
being
that old.
told by Kamikaze, who's a tech guy, right, in my chat, and he's moderator for my channel. He's pretty
Yeah.
big in tech, actually. He's saying that you're just wrong. It's always been sorted. There's always been these algorithms. Always
So,
existed.
well, I really don't think that that's true. Obviously, he might have a technical understanding of how these algorithms work better than I do, but it seems to me that over time, at the very least, we could say that these companies have gotten substantially better at matching content based on personal preferences of people. And you see that in,
He says he
I
worked
mean,
for Google, and that's not true.
so I'm not talking about Google.
Oh,
Like, I don't know how Google sorts their actual sort of search algorithm. I'm talking mostly about your engagements with media.
okay.
So, when you go onto YouTube or Facebook or just a lot
X.
of these broader social media things, I think that that's when you start to see a difference. I don't know. Maybe Google does the same thing. If they do, then that shouldn't be allowed either. But that's
And
just
there's a
kind of
lot
my
of
view.
there's a lot of issues as well with X and how they've changed their algorithm quite a bit since Elon took over as well. And that's where a lot of people. One of the reasons why, for example, I saw a lot of people on leftist Twitter say, "Hey, this is kind of weird. I'm being fed a lot of like right wing discover stuff, and don't it's just anecdotal. There's not really like anybody that can sit there and say, I see behind the screen. I know that I'm being fed this for this reason or that. But I did hear a lot of people saying they were being fed a lot of pro-Trump tweets on their discovery page. That's one of the reasons why I didn't even really go to the discovery page. I usually go to following. But that was the other thing I wanted to hit on by Econo Boy, which is not only do they feed you some of those more aggro posts, it rewards people who aggro post themselves. When you go in and you reply, and this is coming from a professional reply guy like myself, you have about 5 seconds to capture somebody's attention. Do you think you're going to capture somebody's attention by writing the Communist Manifesto, or do you think you're going to catch more people's eyes by saying something
Just
really
real
short?
quick. Just real quick. I confess I am ignorant about the tech stuff. I just don't know enough to say whether or not what you're saying is true or not. I just don't know. Sneed or Kamikaze, if either of you want to jump backstage, because you guys are tech guys and you could talk to this better than I can, by all means, please do so. Because otherwise I'll be just like, oh wow, that's cool.
Yep.
Oh wow, that's true.
Right.
Or wow, that sounds
Well,
weird. Or
I don't know.
that's what this conversation will be. I'll be like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, and I don't know about X's specific policy, or I
True.
mean, I guess I've heard people say that, oh, all of a sudden I'm getting fed right wing stuff, and you could imagine, sure, it's not just like based on previous preferences that leads people to have their priors sort of infinitely confirmed. But it might also be, like the leadership of these corporations having a political bias. And I guess that's been a narrative that many conservatives have said about,
Sure.
Google bias towards the Democrats or whatever. And I don't know, but like the point is though is that I think that there's probably room for regulation with regard to even something like that. Like how do we even platform political content? What does that look like? And how are people sorted into these sort of different content spaces? In general, I just think that if we believe in democracy, I think that we have to recognize that there are certain aspects of like the structures of democratization and democracy itself that are kind of potentially vulnerable to failure, almost like a market failure, unless you regulate things properly. And I think that the way in which people obtain and consume news is probably something that's obviously important in terms of how we regulate it. Famously, like what I had a journalist friend who said that, oh, the press is the only specific profession that is protected in the Constitution as a right to practice, because that's just how important that the founders thought having a free and open press was. And I agree that a free and open press is important, but how we regulate just in general,
So,
like the
yeah.
information people have is
Let me
important.
ask you this. You have a guy, okay, a dude, and he only wants to see stuff that he agrees with. That's what he wants. That's
Yeah.
his goal. Is he doesn't want to see any of these liberal claptrap. He wants to see
Yeah.
good old fashioned American, right, like news and stuff. Whatever, right?
Right.
Or the opposite. You got a guy who says, I don't want any of this right wing influence. It's really hurting my vibe, man. I just want to see the true news on the Democratic side. You can imagine this type of person.
What is
exists.
this impression? Who is
I
that?
don't know.
Look, we could just imagine these people exist because they do.
Turned vaguely European.
Should they be forced to have to engage with content that they don't want to see?
I mean, no, like I don't think that.
So if they
in terms of
want to go to a place or a site or use a service that only gives them the news as they want it, that should be okay.
Yeah, like for instance, if you were to, like in my view, if you were to go to YouTube and you were to search in Fox News, well, I don't think you should just be shown a random list of news stations. Like if you make like search algorithms should work insofar as you're searching for something and you generally have access to that information and like some sort of view on the content. But if I were to search, like if I were to go to YouTube and search for Cenk Uygur, and all of a sudden I'm getting just 48 random media personalities, well, that wouldn't really be a very useful search algorithm. More so what I'm talking about is the sort of kind of content that people are shown, especially when they search for things like political issues and like in an apolitical way. But if you seek out content, I mean, there's ultimately, unless you would argue for like, oh yeah, no, like right-wing content should just be suppressed, or if you were to say like, oh no, politics just shouldn't be a thing on the internet, well, that just seems ridiculous to me. Like I'm just saying that when people search for
what I'm
political
trying to do
topics,
is figure out, like you say this should be regulated, but I can't think of a way to do that won't impact someone
There-
who says, I want to see this kind of news and only this kind of news, and I'm going to search for this, and that's what I want to pop up. I want to
Well,
use
again,
X
like,
specifically because
I use YouTube as an example. Like
Huh?
I used YouTube as an example. Like
Sure.
if you were to go to like YouTube in like 2011, if I were to see, I would see my subscriber list. So like just the list of people that I subscribed to. But when I engage in the search function, a lot of the times when you would engage in that search function, you would see some combination of sort of hot private, or not hot private, hot like viral videos that you would see at the time of the day. But then you would also see maybe historically viral videos, or you would see just, whatever, some random content that might have to do with the category that you searched. I think in general, that's probably a better way to source political news for people, because I think there probably should be some friction with regards to obtaining information like that. Because if there's no friction, you allow people to, again, just like infinitely confirm their priors, and there's never any sort of challenging view or thought that they're ever presented. Like I can't tell you how many times I've talked to someone and it's about politics, and their reaction and their general sort of cadence is literally only headline surface level understanding of things, but their opinion is so incredibly strong. And when you ask them, oh, well, where do you get your information? The answer is always, oh, well, I started out by watching, my friend recommended whatever this content creator, and then all of a sudden I am now subscribed to like the 38 different content creators that do all the same shit because that's what I was, given when I searched for it. That doesn't seem like a healthy way for people to engage in
No,
information.
I agree. It's not a healthy
engage.
way, right? I don't disagree
Right.
with your statement there that it's not a healthy way for people to engage, that they shouldn't just silo themselves off into one type of content. I think that's entirely a problem and it's causing an issue. I don't disagree. But when we look at solutions, the solutions can't come from the algorithm. They can't come from the government. They have to come from people deciding for themselves. I don't want to eat
That's
this junk
totally not
food.
true, Wick.
I
What are
want
you
to eat
talking
more
about?
healthy food.
No, but Wick, what do you the government can do you think regulation just doesn't work? Like obviously regulations can be better and worse for people. And when it comes to like even that example, like
Like
yes,
regulations
we could
doesn't
argue
work. Like sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're
right.
bad. It depends on what the regulation is. It depends what it's
Of course.
regulating. Like I can't make a blanket statement on regulations for you,
Well,
man.
solutions well that's what well of course, but you said the solution can't come from government, but
Yes, I
like
think in this
a lot
case
of
regulations on of the type that I feel that you were advocating for
well, this
are
is just
bad.
one
Yes.
thing. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways you can. I mean, countries have a diversity of ways that they regulate the news media and things like this. And obviously, there's many countries that are much more democratic than our country
Okay,
that we live in. And
what do you mean?
so,
How do we even measure that?
well, you can just look at the different regulations that other countries have. Like for
Well,
instance,
no, you
France
said
has
that
this.
they're more democratic than us. By what metric?
Oh, you're asking how we measure that? So if we were
Yeah.
to look at what we think of as a healthy democracy, like political participation, like informativeness of the public, the sort of decentralized nature of the government, and like how many representatives per person people have. There's just various metrics that we would say, this country has a more democratic horizontal method of governing things than this country, and comparatively speaking. Um, Obviously, like, there's a difference between China and America in terms of how democratic the country is. So we have to like, well,
No,
what are
I'm
the
just
reasons?
wondering what metrics you use to measure that, right? Like that's all.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all to say though that I just think that algorithms are probably a problem. I think our for-profit media structure is probably an issue as well. And I would say that in general, when it comes to alternative media, I would
Wait,
I
would
would
you
mostly
regulate the profit sector of the media, and how?
Yeah, I think in terms of how you would do it, that gets a little complicated. I think in general, I would say that if you're going to be like an establishment, part of news media, at this point, honestly, I favor a nonprofit model. I would say, look, if you're going to be a news media corporation, it has to be nonprofit, or at this point, I would maybe regulate it similarly to how law production is regulated, where there's complicated
Could
ways that
I
you can get
still get
around this.
money for talking about politics on my channel? Could people super chat to me still?
Yeah, yeah, of course. I'm not really talking about like little alternative media outlets. I'm talking about
What do you mean little?
bigger.
Sure.
What do you mean little?
You can
Well,
go by revenue or some kind of a metric of that
yeah,
regard if you
like
want
Wick,
to, or viewership.
obviously, yeah. If you're asking me to develop a statute book in front of you, like that's
No,
going to be
sure, I
difficult.
get
But
you. But I'm
obviously,
just talking about like conceptually. But at least, like, I don't need like a 15-point plan on how to do this. But I'm like,
yeah.
when we talk about like regulating the profit sector, I do
Well, I
need
just
some
mentioned.
idea so that I can actually contend with it. Does
Well,
Well,
that
you
make
I
sense?
can.
you interrupted me though, because I was saying that, for instance, the way that we regulate the law industry, there's like really, really heavy regulations on who can actually invest in and take part in the leadership structure of legal firms, because it seems like in general there's an understanding that, hey, law, it's okay if you make money doing law, but there seems something that's a little bit wrong about like pure commodification of this industry, and it should probably be regulated a little bit differently. So there are lawyers who are rich practicing law, but when it comes to the regulation of law firms, it has to be oftentimes relatively decentralized. You have to be a lawyer to participate. And I think something similar to the news media would make sense, where you favor nonprofit models and you subsidize those heavily. You probably decommodify the consumption of news media significantly, and then if you're going to invest in a news outlet, it probably makes sense to say, well, you have to have a professional certification of some sort. You have to be like a professional journalist or something like that, because billionaires coming in and just buying news media organizations to serve as propaganda outlets, well, that's probably not the best way to regulate how people get their
So
information.
if I have my channel, right, and tomorrow it blows up, okay? I talk politics all the time. I have political talk shows, political podcasts. I have my
Yeah.
own politics that I preach and I advocate for. I blow up tomorrow, 1 million subscribers. I'm getting offers left, right, and center for sponsorships and things. What there are regulations with sponsors and stuff like that. They currently exist. How would you change the dynamic there? What would be different in the Econoboy world than exists now with how the government or how the system would handle me if I blew up, right? How would my life be different?
Sole proprietorships would probably be, generally regulated like they are now, similar to how if like you personally wanted to start like, hey, I'm the lawyer for this
Tim
law
Pool,
firm, but it's
for
like,
example, Tim Pool getting money from how would it stop people like Tim Pool from being able to make a living?
Well,
no,
I think
like Tim Pool would still be like Tim Pool would still be incredibly rich, right? But we have to keep in mind that there's one of the issues with people with how they talk about alternative media. They talk about it almost like, oh, the great thing about alternative media is it's more sort of grounded, like regular people in a decentralized fashion sort
Right.
of made all of these different things popular. But the problem is that even that consumption, like when I donate to someone or when I choose to spend my time like watching a video and giving advertising dollars to someone, or obviously when I invest in a certain news media outlet, that consumption is highly unequally distributed, right? That's a very disproportionately skewed like upper middle income type segment of people. And so given that, we would necessarily expect that the type of media representation that we see even in alternative media spaces would probably be highly different to what sort of average everyday people actually think. Like I don't think average everyday people have even close to the political ideology of like Tim Pool, for instance, right? And I could say the same thing about like so many different alternative media people.
I mean
So,
correct, but that's across the board. No,
exactly,
everyone tries to build themselves as the everyday average American citizen, but podcasters aren't.
Yeah, like
They're just
I'm literally yeah, like I'm like super crazily far left compared to the average, literally the average American. And obviously there's a lot of people that are far right. But my point is that when I'm talking about decommodifying the consumption of news media, I think that there should be something like a voucher system that people have, and that allows people to sort of grant money to news media networks or like alternative media networks truly in a decentralized fashion. That way we not only inject a lot of investment into news media, but we also much more highly democratize the distribution of those dollars. Because right now, like you've got like, oh, Russian fucking billionaire oligarch decided to give millions of dollars to alternative media companies, and then you've got like billionaire Ralph Murdoch.
If I become a billionaire, why if I wanted to give you, because I like you, Econoboy, and I became a billionaire, and I wanted to, you know what? I like Econoboy. I think I like what he's saying. I'm gonna give him $500,000 to get a podcast together and things like that. Would I still be able to?
No, I don't think so. Because again,
I wouldn't
the way
be able
that I
to do
think,
that. Why not? Why couldn't I give you $500,000 if I wanted to?
Wick, do you think that private equity firms should be in the business of owning and producing legal work?
Legal work?
If I was a billionaire and I wanted to buy a law firm and say, I'm going to run this for profit, I'm going to collect all the profits, I'm going to, run it just like a private equity guy would, and lawyers are just going to work for me, and I'll skim off the top and take the profits from them. Do you think that's perfectly okay? Do you disagree with how we regulate the law industry?
I am ignorant onto how we regulate the law system. I just don't know.
We greatly limit. Well, I'm just saying, like we greatly limit and create friction for investing in that industry. And so what I'm saying is that, like when it comes to Mr. Billionaire who wants to buy a newspaper, it's like, well, no, you can't do that because we think that there's higher values.
No, I'm not
there's
talking about a newspaper. I'm
implications.
talking about you. I'm talking about a podcaster. I'm talking about like someone like, like if I Josiah, if I was a billionaire investor and I wanted, you know what? I like what Josiah is doing. I like what he's saying. I want to make sure that he succeeds. So I'm going to inject $1 million so he can succeed.
Yeah, like if
Should
a
I not be
billionaire
able to do that?
You're always going to be allowed to give gifts to people. So like if you're a billionaire and you say, oh, this isn't a business transaction, this is just like, I like Josiah, so I'm going to give him $1 million. Well, sure. I mean, Josiah is going to pay the taxes on that gift, and then he can do whatever he wants with the money. So I don't know that I would regulate the gifts that people give, other than just to say that there's tax instances and things like that.
How does that solve the? Then it
because
Wick,
Wick, hold on, Doghouse. Because Wick, we're not talking about people giving gifts. We're talking about a business motivated relationship, Okay, that's a huge difference. And so when I'm calling him Ralph Murdoch, but I think I'm getting the first name wrong. But when
Rupert.
Rupert Murdoch, yeah, when Rupert Murdoch starts, this Fox News media empire, and when he does the same thing in Australia, he is not just saying, I just have a genuine passion for news media. What he's saying is, I have a vested interest in propagandizing to people a conservative message. And I don't think that that is a good motivation to reward in our current sort of industry of news media, that the consumption of news media and the investment in news media should be significantly highly decentralized. Essentially, what I'm saying is, I would rather a million poor people in Appalachia have $20 to invest in whatever news media they want, giving their voucher to the news media that they want, than a billionaire from Appalachia who owns a coal mine deciding that he's going to give $1 billion to Fox News as a business investment because he likes the propaganda that they spew. That's a much worse way to regulate things, if you
It
ask me.
it kind of feels like, in other words, what you're saying is that there's a difference between like you giving me money because like you support what I'm doing versus me lobbying you like you would in Congress, right? I think that's kind of what I feel like I'm getting here is that when you have like someone like Rupert Murdoch coming in and saying, okay, here's where my interest is. I'm giving you this money to further my interest versus somebody who's like, hey, I'm going to give you like $500 because I think you're doing really good. I think you're doing successful. Great way to go. Cool.
Yeah.
There's a difference in how that transaction takes place. And furthermore, I think
Yeah.
there's a big difference in say like Josiah versus say Tim Pool. One, business structurally wise, you might have a sole proprietorship versus an LLC. Secondly, the megaphone is just dramatically different. Now, the way that you would argue that is obviously the steelman to that is, well, okay, by giving Josiah $1 million, you might elevate him to the point of what would be Tim Pool. But even then, at the initial point of the transaction, the megaphone is completely different with both parties.
Of course, yeah, and I think that like Wick within regards to what you're saying, okay, well, what about even like foreign investors? And it's like yes, like I would argue that foreign investment in news media should be heavily regulated because look at that, we've got Russia paying to form business relationships and propaganda networks in this
I
country.
do what
That shouldn't be
regulation I do
allowed.
support. I'll tell you one I do support, right? I think they should
Yeah,
be required to disclose that.
but it just shouldn't be allowed. I don't think that it's reasonable to say that if you're like, if you're like the Chinese government and you're going to start coming into our country and buying out news media outlets, I don't think that that should be a thing that is allowed because, again, our democracy, we care about democracy, at least in my view, because it provides what we think to be some instrumental value, right? That it has an outcome sort of set that we
I
like.
understand what you're saying with the government, but I'm talking about individual foreign citizens,
Yeah, I think that
even
foreign
rich
citizens.
ones, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to say that that should be heavily disclosed, maybe. I mean, I tend to favor banning it and also banning foreign interest lobbying and things like that. Because I think money in politics and general government corruption and like the corruption of news media is just a really big problem. Um, but no, I mean, I think people should be able to access the media that they just genuinely want to find. But I just think that the investment of that media, and I think that,
Mm.
um,
I
the
wonder
yeah,
if the part of it at least is that they just really want to find that media. Like that's so that they go towards that media.
yeah. No, this isn't again, my motivation in this regard is not like, "Oh, I wanna get rid of MAGAism by doing this." So, I have every reason to believe if you did everything that I'm describing, Alabama would still be a really conservative place, and Missouri would still be a really conservative place, and Massachusetts would still be a really liberal place, right? Um, but I think that these things have an effect on the margin that is, probably noticeable and significant. So for instance, there was a study I think done in Israel actually, because I think Murdoch did a similar thing in Israel where like he just flooded all this money into the country. Um, I don't know if it was Murdoch or if it was someone else, but basically there was a conservative who came in, flooded the country with very, very conservative, right wing news outlets essentially and messaging. And the effect on that was like a shift to the right of 10 points, right? And look, on one hand, you could say, well, hey, those people were just genuinely convinced by these arguments. Like they came in, they presented a conservative view, and they clearly changed their mind. But I think that that behaviorally is probably a bankrupt analysis because we know that propaganda just is a thing that works. And if people are falling for propaganda, we typically find that we would say that's a bad thing because it's propaganda, right? It's not like an attempt
I
to
mean,
deliver truth. It's incentive to
propaganda,
deliver
to
propaganda.
correct you a little bit, propaganda can work, but it often, well, I won't say often. It doesn't always work. Look at the effectiveness of TV ads for political candidates in America.
Yeah.
Very poor dollar to effect ratio
No, but
on
that's
these.
but
Well,
like that's exactly what I'm saying. So I'm conceding to you that I would never make the claim that this would solve all of our problems or political polarization. However, I think that this has a sufficiently large effect on a sufficiently large portion of the population. Like maybe it would have, a significant effect on 5-10% of people, but having millions of people who have now had their temperature broken and now have a slightly more reasonable set of facts to evaluate is probably a much better political environment than the one that we have currently, right?
So, roll the D, and I'll address chat just briefly before I address you.
Oh no.
Roll the DC that says, in regards to the advertisements, that's only because they're counterbalancing one another. That's not exactly true. If you look at the spending per party, Kamala Harris outspent the Trump campaign by a lot, by a lot. It didn't help. It didn't work. So while yes, propaganda can work, it doesn't always work, and there are other factors involved. But to address, to kind of get to what you're saying, to kind of get to the meat of it, my concern. Let me give you my concern. My concern is that any kind of regulatory tool that we create is, one, not going to solve the problem, and two, might actually make it worse. It's going to feed into people's narratives of, look at the government trying to control what we watch and what we listen to. And I think it just gives just another talking point to people who are saying the system's corrupt, the institutions are out to get you, and you shouldn't trust them. That's
wait,
all.
wait, can I chime in on this part?
By
So
all means.
yeah, here's the interesting thing. So we have a recent my opinion is that media should be able to operate without feeling that they're at the behest of the government or behest of, they should be able to operate independently, essentially, right? That's the general position I take. But the thing that we've seen recently with Donald Trump, for example, Donald Trump was recently on October 8th said that he was going to meet with Rupert Murdoch to tell him something very simple, that he doesn't want negative ads to run for 21 days. That was one instance there that was really interesting. The other instance that we saw more recently was Scarborough and Mika, who changed their tune. And from everything that we can tell, the rumor mill is that they did this because of the fact that the Donald
You
Trump
mean Morning
campaign,
Joe Scarborough? Joe Scarborough, that one?
Morning Joe
What do
Scarborough.
you mean
who
change
was-
your tune?
So they met with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago to iron out their differences, essentially.
Okay.
And this came 3 days after Steve Bannon mentioned, you better lawyer up to the hosts and producers and the guests of MSNBC. And
Wait,
so
do you
they're
think
and,
that
and
this was done because they were threatened to do it? If you don't come
if you
kiss
look
the
at,
ring, then we're going to see
I
you
want
into oblivion type of thing?
I believe it had something to do with it. Yes. The reason why is because we can also look at Donald Trump's animosity towards CNN, towards MSNBC, I think ABC, to revoke their licenses. So and we can also look at the fact that several of Trump's candidates who have been appointees have voiced such that they are going after prosecution for some of the people who went after Donald Trump. And like I said, no better than looking at Steve Bannon, who is one of Trump's closest allies, who was certainly an ally during Trump's first presidency, stating very plainly that you better lawyer up. I think it had an influence. I think it had an influence. Do I think that was the reason? I mean, I would need obviously far more evidence to conclusively say
I'd
such.
have to look into this more than I have. I just don't.
Yeah.
Well, Twig, to
But-
your point, though,
Yeah.
I think that there's always going to be enforcement or like political questions, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if what I'm advocating for, wouldn't be particularly popular, I guess. I mean, to be fair, I think some of the stuff would be like, hey, like, shouldn't we all be able to, equally consume news media? Let's give you $20 a year to just throw to any news company you want, like something like that. I don't really see how that would be that unpopular. And then with regard to algorithms, I guess that's like a regulatory change. I don't know, I don't know how salient an issue like that would really be. But anyway, I just think that in this country and really across the world, we've just seen, frankly, we've seen people's beliefs seem to get significantly detached from reality. And I just don't think that social media and like the way that we organize news media and stuff, I don't think that plays a small part. I think it plays quite a large part.
I'm just curious because I haven't seen any recent studies on this, and by recent I mean within the last year, but I've seen
Yeah.
some within the last 5. Conspiracy theory beliefs and being out of touch in reality is not any different than it's ever been, at least according to science, right? I don't have the studies on my fingertips. I'll find them and share them with you at some point. But and again, it wasn't within the last year; it was within the last 5, right? If I remember correctly. But yeah, conspiratorial beliefs and stuff haven't, like, the amount of people who believe them, the percentage of the people who believe them haven't really changed since like the 60s. So I don't know this talking point of how we're becoming detached from reality. I don't know how salient that is. I don't know how true that actually is. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about what studies you're referring to or what they really tested. So I wouldn't be surprised if like the percentage of people that believe that 9/11 was done by the government stayed pretty steady over time. But I'm not really talking about that so much. I think that really what I'm describing is that in just sort of common political discourse with people, and I don't know. I mean, I talk politics with everyone I know. It seems to me, as someone who's been involved in politics for the greater part of 10 years now, that people's beliefs have become significantly stronger, more polarized, and more detached from anything that we could
I'll say polarized. I'll
reasonably
agree with
call
you
reality.
polarized. I'll agree with you polarized, but only within the last, like, since the 90s. Like, if you go back to the 60s, we were more polarized then, believe it or not. But yeah, since the 90s, yeah, we're definitely more polarized now than we were during Clinton. I agree with you. But if we're talking about more polarized now than during like the 60s and the 70s, I would disagree with you. I think the 60s and the 70s were uniquely polarizing. And then if we want to go back further, we can look at, like, obviously Civil
Well,
War and things like that, right? But
yeah, I mean, I don't know about the relative polarization of the country. I mean, I think that yeah, we've had moments of literally civil strife in this country. So I don't know in terms of the polarization if it's as bad as it's ever been. But
you're
I'm
right
really
in
more
that
so,
it's worse today than it was yesterday. And
of
yeah,
course,
that's
yeah,
just
like
true. Yeah.
yeah, really what I'm just saying though is that I think that in general, the way that people consume their news and alternative media and stuff like this, and just all these different structures we talked about, money and politics as well, um, they just lead to, I think, a degradation of political discourse, in part because people just simply don't oftentimes have the ability or the time to really penetrate almost like the atmosphere that's been created for them. And I think that having the things that I described would hopefully help that problem a little bit. And I don't know that that would cause the country to become much more left wing. Like I would still imagine that we would have very deep political disagreements in this country, as the countries that have these types of institutions still do. So
Yeah, and I would say too, to the point of like Blue Sky, because I was mentioned earlier, as someone who moved over to Blue Sky and but still has a presence on X, I told people when I saw the mass exodus of people leaving X and going to Blue Sky, I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is the best route to go. One of the biggest things about Blue Sky is, and I'm probably spoiling some people here who are doing this. The biggest thing on Blue Sky is that's kind of the safe haven from X and the craziness that's been going on with X.
Oh no, I've
And to
heard
the
this. I've heard that people are just they're tired of X feeding them right-wing content as they see it, and they want a liberal alternative, and so they're moving to Blue Sky as a liberal alternative. And
yeah,
that's
well,
again, I
the
haven't moved over
moderation.
simply because I I think this is gonna be a flash in the pan, but I might be wrong about that, right? I think it's gonna go the way of Threads in a month or two. And the second reason is because I think that, like, the self-siloing isn't good for us. Like, it's not healthy.
sure. That's why I said I think that's why I mentioned right, which was like I think you should have. It's good to still consume right wing media, even if you're a leftist, because it's also important for you to understand. You don't want to create a boogeyman by being in an echo chamber,
Yeah.
right? You want to understand exactly what is being said by the right, and you can still look at things like I did, for example, about Steve Bannon or seeing some of the quotes from Donald Trump. It can still be filtered, right, through leftist media, but you're still getting at least some views from the right. Now, I will say, as somebody who's been on Blue Sky for probably the past couple of weeks, I will say that there is still ways that right-wing media is still getting into Blue Sky via leftists on that space. Granted, though, it is heavily filtered in the sense of like a much more negative light to right wingers.
Well, that's the thing about the algorithm. If you dunk on right wingers all day, you're gonna see right wing content.
Right.
Man, I got myself in a fucking libertarian hellhole on Twitter, where I was like,
Yes.
man, this libertarian guy, fuck this guy's stupid. And then I saw it's like, man, my feed is filled with libertarians. I need to stop.
It reminds me of the people who go like
This is
I
why my
remember
feed's pretty good, because I dunk on everyone all day, and so I got all the sides. Okay, they're all there.
Do
Oh my God.
Do y'all
So
remember
simplistic.
like the boomers who were like saying that Facebook was having like they were listening to my conversations, and meanwhile they were searching for like dog food or something on it. They forgot they were googling dog food, and then they were getting fed these search results for dog food or whatever, and they're like, they're listening to me.
I will say I am curious the evolution of this problem over time, because I do I don't know, I do feel like people, like, let's say if you're below the age of 30, um I'll go more than that. I think if you're below the age of like 35, I do think at least a regular part of my upbringing and a lot of my friends' upbringing was like a very constant iteration of like, you can't just Google and find the answer. Don't believe everything you read on the internet. You have to be skeptical of like all information you receive. This is how to do research. Um, and I am curious to find, like maybe in 50 or 60 years, like Wick, you're partially right in that everyone's grown up in this like hyper politicized sort of like chaotic media environment where they're aware of algorithms, and so there's like a much higher percentage of people who are like, look, I have to really independently verify what I believe. But I don't know. Personally, I just don't know if people are inclined to do that if you're sort of presented with sort of a confirmation of your own beliefs. I just think
I
like
think the
90% of
percentage
people.
of people who are inclined to do that will not change. I think that it's just going to be there's going to be a percentage of people who will just believe whatever they see, right? There's always been that, right? It's the first thing they hear, the first thing they read on the newspaper, the first thing they saw on TV, the first thing they heard from a friend, right? That percentage of people who just does that isn't gonna. It hasn't changed. And the
Well, I would
percentage of
say
people who are like ultra skeptical, that also hasn't changed.
if that were the case, that people were actually verifying what they verifying what they see online, then we would have had Kamala Harris win. But that's just me. Being a Kamala stan, but anyways,
Possible, or
Well, I
it's
mean,
possible that they just
yeah.
simply have different values than you do and voted accordingly.
Well, sure, but to
that's a
be
whole
fair
different
though,
question. I was making a joke.
Sure.
well, to be fair though, the polling that I've seen shows that if you rate people by how informed they are, that the informed voters of the world there seems to be quite a
Maybe.
skew in who they
Maybe.
support.
I don't know. I haven't looked at these
But
studies, so I don't know. Maybe.
anyway, Wick, if you had to pick who's going to be our nominee in 28, who would you pick right now? Like as
Who
of
do I
today,
think will be, or who do I want to be?
like who would you want to be the nominee for
Josh
whatever
Shapiro.
reason? And is that just you think he's just
Well,
the
I'm a
best on
Pennsylvania
policy,
resident.
or
I see his broad appeal both in Democratic and Republican circles. I see that his record on infrastructure and other kind of like down to earth kitchen table kind of matters. At least right now, he's seen as a kind of cross the aisle candidate that can get things done and takes both sides seriously. And I think that kind of appeal will translate nationally, at least somewhat. Not entirely, right? Like, obviously, there's going to be some people who call him the devil no matter what. But I think that, like, I would much rather him than Gavin Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom would be a mistake for a lot of reasons. But that's who I think. What about you? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, I just think that I will say this. I think that probably the most important thing that a Democrat needs to have going into 28 is an aura of anti-establishment, an aura of populist thinking.
Do you think
Now,
AOC could win?
well, okay, exactly, right? So what I was going to say was those are probably the two most important things. And so when I think of everything else, and when I think of like who accomplishes these two most important things, there are some moderates that come to mind, like John Ossoff. I think he could be a very good candidate in 28, assuming he wins re-election in 26, and that is a big if. I think that Raphael Warnock could be a very good candidate in 2028. Like, he's got aura. I don't think people view him as particularly establishment. And he's just like a good senator in my view. So I can hear those arguments.
Definition, we got to go Fetterman. We got.
I was just gonna say.
No, I mean, I think
got
again,
to. I mean, if we talk about anti-establishment, he's the guy.
No. But those two things aren't the most important, or those two things are the most important, but they're not the only thing. And I think that there's obviously degrees here, and there's a style that I'm talking about. So I don't think we should go like full like Trump level, just crazy town. But I'm talking about a general aura. Now, AOC, do I think she could win in 28? Here's my answer to that. I think if Trump does what he says he's going to do, I think things will be so bad in 2028 that any Democrat could win. Like, it probably wouldn't matter who we nominated. It's just like it was an uphill battle this year for Democrats. It'll be an incredibly uphill battle for the Republican in 2028. Now, AOC specifically, is she the best possible candidate? I don't know. I would say yes a week ago, but the more that I think about it, the more that I think, I think that if you ran a guy like John Ossoff with a somewhat, let's say, progressive message and campaign, I think he could be an optimal candidate for a number of reasons. But AOC, I think, would be very strong. I think people really underestimate her. I think a lot of people are saying stupid things
She's
like,
made
"Oh, well,
some
she's a
moves
woman."
recently that signal, at least to me, that there's possible that she's going to run in. Like, I know
Absolutely,
you're gonna meme on this, and rightly so, because it's such a small signal. But she did remove her pronouns from her bio, and you say that's
No, I mean,
nothing, but that
could be. Well, I think in general, there's, I think AOC has. That's one of the reasons why I say people underestimate her chances. She has proven to be receptive to changes in environment and information. Like, she came into office way more like activist left than she is today. And I think that in part that's because she realized, hey, like, it's actually a little bit more effective to spread a progressive message in a different way, but with the same intensity. And so I think, yeah, she's got every reason to want to run in 28. And I think she's politically savvy. And I think, hey, to be fair, the Democrats lose a ton with.
Actually, I am more of a fan of hers today than I was a year ago. I think that
Plus, she'll
for
implement
a lot of the
socialism,
reasons you
which,
said, she's been willing, and she's showcased that she's willing to change.
Can I get the hot take?
Say one more time.
Take.
Yeah, the hot take. So Morning Consult actually did a poll recently on who leads in the potential of 2028 contenders. And come on, Econo boy. Look, I'm going to take the hot take here.
Don't say it.
Okay. 43% said Kamala Harris.
Shut the fuck up.
Say psych right now. Say psych right now.
Hey,
say psych right now.
Second. No, that was actually that was a legit poll done. 43% of people.
This is why I don't trust polls. Okay.
It says Democrats and Democrat-leaning independents said whom they would vote for if the 2028 nominating contest were held today. Jesus, word.
I mean, that's not surprising. It's just recency bias, though. To be fair,
right?
I think
and then
as time goes on.
But they did. It's interesting to note that when you were talking about AOC, she got 4%. Josh Shapiro was at 5%. Tim Walz next. Gavin Newsom next, and then Pete Buttigieg was
the biggest
next.
Problem with running AOC, I mean, it's I think in general is just that I just don't know. I truly just do not know if she would win the primary, because to win a Democratic primary,
I think she might win the primary, right? I do think she would, but here's a problem. She's going to have one of the same issues that Kamala had. One of the same issues. Well, no, Hillary had a different issue. I won't use her
being
here.
a woman.
No,
that's where Wick is going.
That's not where I'm going. I'm saying that she has stuff she said years ago that's going to be played over and over and over again. So no matter what she says today, they're going to look at the AOC of the squad, right? And they're going to see her as that, or they're going to try to portray her as that. That's the reason why I think AOC may not.
I'm not worried about that.
Not work.
I just the reason, I mean, I think every politician has examples like that, and I think especially in the world that we live in today, where like Trump, there was that video that was going around recently where Trump is legitimately based on the issue of trans women using women's bathrooms. He literally just says like, look, it's just like, why is that even a big deal? You know, like just whatever bathroom you want, you know, basic respect. And it's like, wow, what the fuck? You know, meanwhile, you know, Trump is a complete madman nowadays when it comes to a lot of these issues. So, you know, I just don't know if that really matters that much. I think I
No.
agree with you that it's a line of attack, but every candidate has lines of attack that they're susceptible to. And there's no candidate that's you know, even John Ossoff, Josh Stein, you know, they all have their own controversies.
$5 from Portland is burning. There's absolutely no universe where the American population nominates AOC, let alone elects her. Please be serious, you goofballs.
No, but Portland, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that I don't know about her chances to get out of a primary, but like, I just don't like this. Like, this is such bullshit that people say. Oh, the American people would never vote for some, you know, young woman of color spouting leftist bullshit. Meanwhile, in 2008, in a time of crisis, coming off of neocon George Bush, running against one of the most moderate, sensible Republicans, apparently in contemporary history, John McCain, we didn't nominate centrist Hillary Clinton from the Clinton years. We nominated fucking Barack Hussein Obama, who talked about socializing medicine in the primary. And so this idea that you couldn't have enough Riz and enough sort of candidate for the moment X factor that would lead you to winning a landslide on a progressive message, which in 2028, we will be in a time of crisis if Trump does what he says he's going to do. Like, yes, AOC could win in the general election. That's an insane opinion in my view.
I'm going to give my last take on this because I do got to go to eat dinner and stuff. But I want to say this. I know a lot of people say that Kamala Harris ran a terrible campaign, but the fact is she did run very closely alongside Trump. I think the margin right now was like 1.7%. I think the last time I checked, or something along those numbers. And if you look at how she compared to Hillary Clinton, she did phenomenally. Now, if you look at how she did against Joe Biden, she didn't do all that great. And you'd even see that I think she ended up losing Republican support, even though she ran a fairly moderate campaign. All things considered. And so I think, look, I'm not saying rerun Kamala Harris, but what I am saying, though, is that this idea that because you're running, and think about this, is Donald Trump, for all the narratives that he painted about Kamala Harris with her 2019 progressive positions, I still think that Kamala Harris's downfall was more the fact of not really. I think there was a few things. There was one that I think that she didn't really go into a lot of the swing states that she was. I think that's one of the post. What was it? The post mortem.
Like every day, like she was there all the time, right? Like she didn't make the Clinton mistake. She was there, right? In the Rust Belt, she was going.
Well, I think, if I remember correctly, she focused a lot more on Michigan and Wisconsin, if my memory serves me correctly, but not near as much as she would have liked to have in Pennsylvania, for example.
She lost all three.
Well, yeah, she lost all three, but either way, what I'm saying though is this idea and this narrative that, oh my goodness, like AOC's got a lot of baggage with her. Well, Kamala Harris did too, but she did fairly well, all things considered. And if you look at how Democrats did, and this is another big thing to look at, is Democrats did pretty well as well when you look at the Congress and the House, or the House and Senate races. They did pretty well in there, and in fact won some of the swing states, even though Donald Trump won the presidency, which is a signal to me of what exactly is going on.
I have a question. Wick. Sean Fain? Question mark?
I don't know enough about him.
You know who that is, though, right?
I do. I know who he is. I just don't know enough about him. I don't know.
He's actually he's extremely. I just think he's interesting to think about because, you know, he is just like the president of a car manufacturers union, obviously.
Yeah, he's just a union guy, but that's big.
Yeah,
he's a union guy,
right? And so, but the thing is, as well, my understanding is that he is a quite progressive person. He's obviously got this anti-establishment, like pro-union, very pro-worker. Like nobody's beating him on workers' rights, like in a primary. You could not possibly call Sean Union not like a working class, you know, candidate. He's from the Midwest. You know, he's got like that white guy. Like everyone's like, oh, we can't run a woman. Okay, well, he's just a middle-aged, you know.
I think it's a mistake. People who say we can't, we got to run a what? Like when people say we want to run a moderate guy, and then they start listing off character identifiers such as white, male,
I didn't say
etc.
Moderate.
I'm not saying you are, right? But I'm responding to other conversations I've heard. I'm just using this to make a point. Okay?
Stop making a point.
that I think that's a mistake. Like this idea that people didn't vote for Kamala because she was a woman is just not true. I mean, I'm sure you can find ones or twos, right, that didn't do it because of that, right? But like it wasn't an outcome determinative amount. They want someone who they can see what they want someone that they think isn't going to be an extremist. And for whatever reason, they thought that Kamala was going to be more extreme than Trump. I think they were wrong, but that's what they thought, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think part of that could be sexism. Obviously, like you perceive like a woman to be perhaps more extreme on political issues, just kind of all else
Hold
equal.
on.
But
Hold
I mean,
on.
I think that.
I hate to interrupt you again. Wolf Glenn says this. She lost
Oh no.
in main part because she did not separate herself from Biden. She did not call it a genocide. She could have received millions of votes from folks that did not vote if she called it a genocide. We're never going to win. Like, no, that is the opposite of what happened, right? Her not calling it a genocide, right? One of the reasons a lot of people didn't vote for her is because she was seen as being cozying up to people who call it a genocide all day.
That's so not true, guys. We disagree on this point, but that's so not true if you ask me. She got 80% of Jewish people voted for Kamala, right?
Less
I just don't.
Jewish people voted for her than voted for Biden.
Well, because turnout in general went down substantially,
Percentage.
right? So Biden got more than 80% of the Jewish vote. I haven't
so
seen exit polls
I
on
can
that,
look at
but...
two exit polls I can give you, one from J Street and one from Fox News. And both track. I saw an NBC one, but the NBC one didn't track the Jewish vote from 2020. It only did it from 2024, so I can't compare that. But I can look at the J Street one, in which she lost 7 points amongst the Jewish vote. It was 77% for Biden. It was 70% for her. And then we can look at the Fox News poll, which shows her going, I think it was 69% for Biden, going to 66% for Kamala.
Mhm.
So by
Well,
all
but
those metrics, she lost percentage-wise votes amongst the Jewish population.
Yeah,
Was
but
that outcome
she lost
determinative? Probably not, but it's just wrong to say that she gained more Jewish votes. She lost
Well, no.
Jewish votes.
I didn't say she gained Jewish votes, but I'm just saying
Okay.
that to say that she like greatly underperformed with Jewish voters because of this isn't true, or like, because I think as well you have to keep in mind that there's not quite as many Jewish voters as there are Muslim voters, but she also loses substantially with that group as well because so many of them stayed home or they decided to vote for like the Green Party or even vote for Trump.
They've mostly voted for Trump. Dearborn, Michigan, at least, they voted for Trump.
But part
They
of that's
didn't stay home. They
compositional, 'cause-
voted. They just voted for Trump. So it wasn't genocide that they were worried about.
No, I'm not.
They voted for
No, but I'm
Trump.
saying no, but that is partially compositional because so many less of them voted in the first place, right? So if all those people voted and voted Democratic, then the percentages might look very similar to 2020. But I'm just saying that I think that it's wrong to basically say that as an issue couldn't have motivated at least more people to come out and vote. I don't know what the net effect would be, but I just think that in general, Kamala did make a mistake by running such a like. Her platform was so incredibly narrow. It was just a very
There
narrow
was nothing
platform.
there. I agree. No, we've
Yeah,
had
I
this
mean,
conversation before. Like, she needed to, she tried to play all sides, and so she ended up winning no sides.
Yeah, exactly. Like she just, my healthcare plan is expanding Medicare into home care. Like, what the fuck? Like, run on something bigger that affects more people, right? I mean, it's just like it's not that that's a bad thing for people that it helps, but it's not something that's gonna like resonate to like the single mom who's like struggling to pay her bills because it's like I'm having trouble with like my kids and my job paying me nothing, and I don't care about home care at this point in my life. So, but anyway, yeah, 2020 it'll be really interesting. I really don't know if Trump will do what he says he's gonna do, but if Trump does deport, if Trump deports 10 million people and does universal, like if he does like 10% tariffs on like 90% of imports, let's say, we're going to be in a very sorry state come 2026.
I do wonder. One of the things that was a hopeful sign to me, right? Because the question I have is how much is the Senate going to just go along with Trump, right?
It doesn't matter.
You don't think it matters?
He most likely has full executive authority to do the two things that I just mentioned.
Oh, fair enough on those two things, but I'm talking about in general, his presidency in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and
I don't think he'll be able to pass like getting rid of I don't think he'll be able to pass like incredibly large spending cuts to things like Medicare or Social Security. I think some of his rule changes could be disastrous for the environment. But that's an executive thing. And I think that the tariffs and the mass deportation, I just think that that would absolutely cause a recession, and it would probably cause a worse recession than in 2010, because if he actually did that, you'd probably see shortages of shit. Like, people would go to the grocery store and they would realize, like, oh, we just don't have the shit that we used to have because we don't have the people who did the work that would bring those goods in. A lot of those goods are tariffed now. Like, fuck, this is horrible. And so,
We'll see.
you
That
know,
might have just been like shit he says though. Like one of the problems with
that's
Trump
what
is
I'm
he just
saying. Like,
says shit.
he might not do these things. Yeah, exactly. Like, I could totally see, like, he comes into office and it's just like it was in 2016, where, like, yeah, he does some bad stuff, he tweets a lot of stupid shit, he embarrasses the country, but, like, he doesn't, like, completely fucking dismantle a lot of our fundamental institutions, kind of like he's promising to do. Um, you know, I think he will do a lot of the. I think the federal law enforcement agencies will be really fucked by the time
Mm.
2028 rolls around. I think that you'll see mass resignations and a lot of frivolous investigations.
We will see. That's the
things like
thing.
that.
Time will tell, right? Time will tell. I will say, and look, I will give credit where it's due. The Republicans who wouldn't elect Gates as the AG, props to you. That's the win that those Republicans can hold. Okay, I was worried. I was worried. Like I was 90% sure that Gates wasn't going to get the nomination. 90% sure. But there was that 10% of me that worried that, oh, they're just going to roll over for him. But apparently, that's not the case. At least for Gates. Let's see if this holds.
I mean, that's true. I think that his, to be fair though, like, we'll see what they do with his Secretary of Defense nominee, who seems to be equally disastrous, if you ask me. We'll see what they do with his Kash Patel as FBI director, is, like, actually such an insane thing. We'll see what they do with that. We'll see what they do with fucking RFK as HHS. Like, what the fuck is even that going to look like? Like, that would be an insane thing. And so,
will that get in? I'm the two I'm looking at now are, will Gabbard get in? Because Nikki Haley's going after Gabbard hard. I don't know if you've seen some of her comments on Tulsi.
I think Haley will be fine, but I think Hegseth would be a pretty rough. I think that'll be a very rough confirmation process, and I think that RFK will probably be pretty. I think RFK is going to get in, but
let's get you on record now. RFK, does he get it or no? Yes or no?
I think yes. I would lean towards yes.
Economy Boy is predicting right now RFK will be nominated. What about let's get the big three here. Gabbard and then Hegseth. Gabbard, confirmed or no?
That's a great question. I'm going to say, now that I think about it more, I'm going to say no. She doesn't get it.
No on Gabbard. Interesting. And then last, Hegseth.
I don't think Hegseth will get it.
So no Hegseth, no Gabbard, yes on RFK.
On RFK.
The brainworm was eating my brain when I tried to remember his name. So,
And we'll see how much this catches on, because, like, Murkowski came out and said, I think Colin said the same thing, that, like, we're going to vote no on all of these nominees unless they get the FBI vetting. And so, which is also just, like, an insane thing that Trump, like, how do people not have a problem with this on the right? Like, oh yeah, just like, who, no fucking background check at all for our federal nominees.
Some do have a problem with it, right? That's why they're raising concerns.
We'll see. Well, yeah, but it's like a very minority of the party. But yeah, like, you're already starting down 2 on, like, all these nominees, presumably. And so, could I see Mitch McConnell being, like, a really big problem? I could, because Mitch McConnell's, like, retiring and doesn't give a fuck at this point. And I could see that. And then other people like Tom Tillis has been really cold on a lot of these nominees. Like, he could be a regular problem. So, I could see a lot of confirmation problems.
Yeah.
I think that the scary part is that he could just make all these people acting appointments, though. And so,
I don't even know. Are you talking about recess appointments? Is that what you're talking about?
No, just like, so my understanding is a recess appointment would be like, you'd have the full position until such time that the Senate would reconvene. But my understanding is that, and I talked to Pisco about this, and Pisco didn't seem to have, like, he's like, yeah, like, I guess in theory that is possible, or, like, he's worried about that too. But I don't know what's to stop Trump from just saying, like, oh, you rejected RFK? Well, he's the acting head of HHS now. Okay, like what? What's the difference? You know, who
I don't
cares?
know enough about the technicalities to speak to that. I think that him doing that, there would be pushback against moderate Republicans, and
There would be, but who
there would be a
cares?
lot of push. Well, it they can still cause issues for Trump's presidency.
I don't know that he cares about the kind of issues that Senate Republicans could cause relative to the kinds of issues that he cares about, like just firing a bunch of FBI agents and putting tariffs on everything and deporting a bunch of undocumented immigrants, right? Um, it's like, oh, a bunch of Senate Republicans are criticizing me. Like, when has Trump ever cared about that? He's never cared about that, like even 1% of the time,
Well, I do
right?
think he cares about whether it can get in his way, and I think it can. I think that they still can get in his way of what he
We'll
actually
see.
wants to do, and I think that he'll have to play ball to some extent.
We'll see, yeah, and we'll
Yeah.
see like what the Democrats do. I just don't. I mean, yeah, we'll see what the lawfare looks like under Trump. Like that's one thing that's a big X factor for me. Like, do we see like is AOC all of a sudden getting like audited every fucking year and like, fucking Chuck Schumer's like watching black vans follow him places. Like what the fuck, what's gonna happen? But
knows?
who knows?
Who
Anyway,
knows?
well, it was good talking to you, Wick.
Yeah, nice to see you. Ghana boy,
See you, bud.
always a pleasure.
Of course. See you.
Gang, that was an interesting talk. Why don't any of you right-wingers jump on? It's always the lefties who want to talk to me. Why not you righties? Why don't you want to say hi? Blacktoid does on occasion. Gibbs does on occasion. But you righties are very shy. You're very shy. That's all I'm saying. I'll talk to you. What do we want to do? X, are you considered one? A righty? Yeah, I consider you right wing, or at least right of center. Based on your comments. One of these days, Wick, on Solemn Argus, I look forward to it. And when I do have someone kind of like more right-leaning, like Dev, on, he's a fascist and a communist at the same time, right? You guys were like, he's not a real righty, and you asked me to have like Sargon of Akkad on. And again, I'm down. I'm down to getting Sargon on. I just don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna work. Like he's gonna say no. He said no to me before. We are gonna have a centrist on though. So Monday, 6 p.m. Eastern, I'm gonna be having Tracing Woodgrains on. Tracing Woodgrains wrote a small little X snippet. You know what? Actually, let me see if I can find that real quick, and I'll read it to you again. It's worth repeating. This is a guy I'm gonna have on, and this is one of the reasons I asked to see if he would come on. Is because of this statement. Let me get there. Let's see if I can find it again. Oh my god, I gotta go back. Oh, he posts a lot. Oh god. It's a lot, gang. Let's get back to the night of the election. Scroll all the way back. All the way back. Going back in time. Ladies and gentlemen. Back in time. Scroll, 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 scroll. I'd let you watch, but I don't know what's gonna pop up in his feed, and I don't want any boobies, okay? Not on Twitch. Not on YouTube. Okay. Not to pop up for you guys. I don't know what's on his... I'm on his page right now. I just don't know what all he's... I can't imagine him having posted any, but... You never know sometimes. Okay? Better safe than sorry. We're at the 11th. We got a few more days to go. A few more days to go. And we will get there. Okay, it's almost there. Do I post this much? I hope I don't. I hope I'm not as post happy as some of these other creators, but I know I probably am. If I looked at it, I probably would be. Oh, we are close now. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. This is what, and we'll read it together. It's a short read, but this is one of the reasons I want to talk to him. This is his perspective. It was done on election night. Maybe too early for an election retrospective. It's still election night, and technically things haven't been called. It's good time to speak candidly, though. There's not a single moment this election that I felt heard or represented by Kamala Harris. Not one. But people, and especially leftists, will say, "You're a centrist." She ran to the center, did she not? Spoke of unity, focused on fundamentals, stayed disciplined. And I confess she did. But let's consider the nature of that running to the center. Well-oiled, precisely tuned gears of the machine, turning and calculating that to win the vote they need to present as normal. Not that they were ever wrong, not that any of their priorities were mistaken, that they had ever seriously overstepped, that they needed any serious re-examination. Just that they needed to slow walk things, to be calm, to rely on running against Trump and repeating platitudes to waltz into the presidency. What will you do differently from Joe Biden? A bold answer from Kamala. I'm not him, and I'm not Trump. Great. What are we to make of your positions during the 2020 primary? Well, it's not 2019 anymore, is it? Did you ever, even once, go too far? A laugh and a charming slice of life quip. The Democrats tried to run an election on vibes alone. Kamala's brat. Kamala's normal. Kamala's all things to all people. Kamala's with the good guys and against the bad guys, with the good things and against the bad things. And shouldn't that be enough? Look, I've been adamantly against Trump from the day he entered the national scene. I've never wavered on that. But I spend my time and my energy writing, shouting, begging someone to listen that people do not trust the machine, and they do not trust it for good reason. Young, educated professionals are far to the left of the average American, and they are the ones in control of every institution. Institutions systematically represent their views, treating them as natural and everyone else as aberrant. I'm on the fringes of that group, right-wing by young, educated professional standards, dead center by the standards of the country. And it's frustrating, alienating on a deep level to go to law school and watch prison abolitionists and Hamas supporters and people who want to tear gifted education down treated as sane and normal and respectable, while knowing that if I don't voice perspectives sympathetic to the majority of the country, nobody will voice them at all. Kamala Harris never represented me. The Democrats never signaled to me that they heard or understood my voice and voices like mine, only that they wanted to pull the right levers and press the right buttons and twist the right knobs to convince that mystical creature, the centrist, that they were on their side. I don't know what will happen under what looks to be 4 more years of Trump. I don't think it will be as dire as the worst predictions, and I hope it won't be. But I remain now as ever wholly convinced that he is temperamentally unfit to be president of the country, and the country is a more volatile and uncertain place with him in charge. But what I hope is this. The Democrats don't take this moment to lament to themselves how everyone fell victim to misinformation and imagined grievances, and they were fine and good and the people were the problem, that their problems is that they were simply not pure left enough. Now is the time for recognition that they fundamentally wholly failed to understand and reach a frustrated center. They have 4 years to get serious about doing so. Gang, that's a powerful essay. That's a powerful essay. That's just true. It resonates. It stings, if you will. I am very glad he decided to join us on Monday, and I'm going to pick his brain on all sorts of things. It should be an interesting discussion. And you guys can check us out at 6 p.m. Eastern on Monday. Did you guys like this talk? Did you guys like this conversation? Did you like the presentation I gave right at the beginning? Did you guys like the content? I hope you did. I hope you enjoyed it. right? And you get to see my smile, such as it is, right? No? Huh? Huh? You guys like it? I like it. Okay. The tooth content. Yes. The tooth stream. Again, to all those doubters and haters, all those people who are making fanfic about me stealing money, fuck you forever. Honestly. Go fuck yourselves. I hate you. Right? You're bad people. You just made shit up. You didn't know what you were talking about. No one should ever listen to you again. This should be a black mark on your reputation. Calling an honest man a liar, an honest man like me a thief. Get the fuck out of here. Seriously. Get the fuck out of here. Okay. It offends me on a personal level because I was never stealing that money. That money was sacrosanct, and I treated it as such. And for people to make these baseless accusations against me. No, that's what they accused me of doing, Lemonez. I hosted a GoFundMe for this. And because I didn't get it done as soon as they wanted because of other issues, non-monetarily, that I had to work out, they said I stole that money. No, fuck them. Seriously. And I hope I hope they have nightmares about the lies they've told about me. And you should never listen to them again. They are demonstrably wrong. Demonstrably wrong. Now they can apologize, and I will accept their apology. I'm a kind man. Okay? Forgive. Divine. But for today, at least, with my whole heart, to those who doubted me, to those who, especially those who made up lies about me. Fuck you. Okay. And on that note, we're going to leave. We're going to go bye-bye, and we will see you on Monday. Bye-bye. Wait, bye, everyone. Bye.